We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
What's pro football focus doing? Last week they had Brady. This week they got Brady.
We're literally doing it differently from everybody else.
As a matter of fact, moving forward from this point on, I will not make reference to PFF.
Do you not understand that they are that way because you're Joe Flacco?
And you just like to discredit things that people deserve credit for.
That you can't possibly be expected to defend that.
Talk about the game, Sam.
So,
Who cares about what people think about us?
Yeah, I like football season, all the things that go with
it. Welcome into the PFF NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo back here with Sam Monson, and we are reviewing all of the Week 12 action. How you doing, Sam?
good, Steve. You?
Doing great. You got a new rugby jersey there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks very Halloweenish.
Halloweenish. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It is I don't even know how you pronounce it. It's South American Jaguars. So Jaguares or something is how they say it. I don't know. Spanish, I guess.
Yeah,
Argentina.
the G is always silent-ish in Spanish.
Yeah. It's Argentina, which is, I don't know. Anyway, the South American Argentinian Super Rugby franchise that no longer plays in Super Rugby, but has very cool jerseys.
Tough to see on video, but it looks like a Visa jersey.
Well, it's sponsored by Visa, as am I, obviously. So
Yeah.
I gotta wear the corporate logo at all times.
If anyone works for Visa and wants to make that official. But
Yeah.
you said you were I didn't know we were both going to wear the same colors. I brought out my old Devin Still jersey.
You
Bengals
did?
jersey.
Yeah.
You know, Bengals Victory Monday here in Cincinnati.
How many X's is attached to that bad boy?
Might be a 3. Might be a 3X.
3 X's.
Fits nicely. Nice and snug. After all, he's a defensive tackle.
Yes,
But
that's that's a game
yeah.
worn Devin Still, like full 3X.
It might actually be. Anyway, let's get into all of the fun from the Week 12. By the way, a lot of people are asking, and we should probably go back and put it in the title, when Steve and Sam played baseball.
Yeah.
That actually happened on our Wednesday episode last week. So we've got the audio version. If you guys are listening to just the podcast on audio, we have a slightly different version. The video version is about 7 or 8 minutes of greatness. And you should go back and see. Look at that. Look at that. Wasn't it? Yeah, we've got the meme guy was back. I love when people really pull out the old references from like 2 or 3 years ago. My old pitching coach, the Nutty Buddy, and his new athletic cup and the whole thing. So we had a lot of fun.
We never checked. That was part of the uniform, was it? The Nutty Buddy?
No, we never checked.
I certainly didn't check.
We didn't do the test. Oh, no.
I mean, had I been checking, it was by, hitting the ball in that direction.
No.
But that would require some serious accuracy.
The people who don't know about the Nutty Buddy, though, you got to go YouTube it and check out the actual test that was done on this athletic cup. That feels like a nice it doesn't feel like I'm not even going to say it.
I mean, sir, it's your turn, so I'm okay
I'm
with
not
that.
even going to say it. That should not be part of any charity drive. Nobody needs to see the Nutty Buddy tested once. It's already been tested, is the point.
That's true. But we are looking for a new one. So if you have ideas for our next charity drive, send them in. Email us at nflpodcast@pff.com. We are in need of suggestions, of ideas, of both charities that we can donate to and things that Steve can do to raise money for this charity.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Anyway, so we've got a lot of special deals today, too, over at PFF.com with X-Chair coming up. PFF.com, though, it's Cyber 40% off any PFF subscription right now. Don't forget, always send the email, too, at our contact, Steve and Sam.
Are you actually pushing that?
It's a joke.
Poor people.
It's a joke. But, if you email people, it's fine. The Thanksgiving games, we reviewed those as part of the PFF NFL Daily. We did a late-night Thanksgiving podcast early morning on Friday. So go check that out. But the fallout coming out of Thanksgiving a few days ago with the Bills' big win.
That was only a few days ago. Feels like years ago.
It does feel like years ago. Did you have a good Thanksgiving, by the way?
It was fine.
Good.
You?
Yeah, it was great. Had 7 kids, 7 and under, running around my house. Yeah.
Then it can't have been good.
I mean, it was just, you set low expectations.
Yeah.
You set very low expectations. And then you can't be disappointed.
7 kids.
Yeah. God. It was a little hectic.
And they're not even reaching the age yet. I mean, there's a lot in front of you, you know? I have one, and it's a nightmare. She's 8, and it's just a disaster.
I know.
They've reached this stage where now she's just sitting there all day on an iPad with the rest of the kids in her class, like in some sort of giant video group chat while they're playing Roblox. And it's like, what is happening in my house? And if you listen to
But she's quiet.
No, that's the thing.
Oh, she's not.
It's not quiet at all. It's the loudest thing in the entire world in the middle of the living room. And if you listen to like a group of 8-year-old girls talk for any period of time on a group chat, it will make you want to just destroy like Thanos and his, that's what you want to do. Just end it now.
Oh, it actually
We've
sounds
gone
terrible.
too far.
It sounds terrible.
Oh, God.
Anyway.
That's like trauma you just resurfaced there.
Imagine if you had 7 kids running around.
That's what I'm saying. I refuse to put myself in that headspace, or my brain will just implode.
Well, I'll keep you updated as the 4 grow. I also like the commenter who was like, LOL, look at Steve's 8-year-old who's as tall as Sam, and that's my 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Who's
also
almost as tall as Sam. He's almost as tall as you.
No. Come on. Look, I get unfairly criticized in terms of height by perspective, right? You screw me because you're 9.5 feet tall. I'm like 5'11". I'm not a tiny person.
Proud of you, man. You get
Thank you.
NFL cornerback size here.
This is what I'm saying. I'm like a normal human size, but put next to you, I look like a child.
That's what I do.
And, large as your 6-year-old is, I mean, what are we talking
You
about?
have a lot of weight on him. He's
5
skinny.
feet?
He's skinny.
I've still got like a foot on him.
He's skinny.
That's all I'm saying.
He's got to
On
pack
a
some pounds
6-year-old.
on. He's only about 50 pounds, 55 pounds.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I got a lot of weight on him.
You do.
Yeah.
You can push him around,
Right.
For sure. The Thanksgiving. The only thing I wanted to talk about Thanksgiving fallout. The Cowboys fall to 7-4, so they kind of fall out of that number 1 seed contention in the NFC. The Bills hanging with the New England Patriots and now primed for, I think it's Monday Night Football next week.
Is.
Bills Patriots. So the Bills had a really nice win on Thursday night. Other than that, there wasn't a whole lot notable. But if you do want to go back, PFF NFL Daily on Friday morning, we did recap that. All right, let's go through all of yesterday's action. Let's start
You're
with
excited now because now we can we got 3 games out of the way.
3 out of the way.
We can get this whole thing done in under 3 hours.
Fastest show. We're going to be 2 hours and out. 2 hours today, right?
What are somebody start running a book on this in the comments section? What are the odds we can get out of here in 2 hours?
No, you people, it's all you guys. You guys love the long shows. You guys always listen in and watch and the whole thing. Let's start with our Bengals. The hometown Bengals 41, the Steelers 10. They sweep the Steelers, beat them for the 3rd straight time.
And it wasn't even as close as that.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was a late touchdown by the Steelers. It was 41-3 for a little bit. The Bengals with another just straight up dominant outing. Big Ben, 4 or 5 turnover worthy plays, threw a bunch into coverage, pick 6 in there. Man, this was just a beatdown from start to finish.
It really was. Heading into this game, the line was like 3 points or something, and you're like, I like the Bengals because they're just better everywhere. Like all of a sudden Pittsburgh's like lack of quality.
Not everyone.
Up.
Not everyone liked.
Oh look!
Yeah,
look
I picked.
at that. Yeah,
I bought into this whole Tomlin factor a couple weeks ago.
Well, this is what I'm saying. So it's like Pittsburgh are just not very good right now. And if you look at their grading, like in the last 4 weeks, they haven't had a grade. 5 weeks now, presumably. I haven't checked. But in the last 4 weeks heading into this game, they hadn't had a grade on offense higher than 63. They'd had 1 grade on defense better than 60. It's like this is just a bad team that's been hanging quite well during the season because they have Mike Tomlin and there's a lot of veteran savvy around, and every now and again people making some plays. But fundamentally, they're just not good, right? Whereas you look at Cincinnati, and there's a lot of encouraging pieces in this team, a lot of players where they're just better than their opposition. You're like, there's no reason this shouldn't be a fairly comfortable Cincinnati win. The only reason you would say it isn't is because the Steelers have Mike Tomlin. And Mike Tomlin is a really good coach. They always hang tight. A couple of people were making the point on the live show that they just don't get blown out, ever. So we lean Pittsburgh. And well, that just fell apart in this game. Like start to finish.
Strong take.
Yeah. Start to finish, the Bengals just destroyed them.
One thing I liked about the Bengals, so the Bengals feel like they're playing Browns football.
Browns football.
Better than the Browns.
Well, the Browns aren't playing very good football at all.
Well, the peak Browns of last year, where they had those games where they ran for 200 yards and QB didn't have to do a whole lot and all that stuff. Joe Burrow played a really good game, but he had 24 pass attempts. He was 20 for 24 throwing the ball, which is great. But it's another one of those games where the Bengals rushing attack with Joe Mixon, he carries it 28 times for $165. There were many nails in the coffin, but he had a big touchdown run late to really, really run up that score against the hated Steelers here in Cincinnati. But it's one of those games where it's like, all right, we don't even need a ton from the passing attack, but when we do go to the air, it's going to be really efficient. And the thing I really liked was T. Higgins was the go-to guy this particular week, and we had been asking ourselves about that for the Bengals for a few weeks now. Why can't we get a little bit more out of T. Higgins or a Tyler Boyd or some other complementary piece to Jamar Chase? And this was just a really good, well-rounded effort in one where, hey, T. Higgins was the guy with 6 catches for 114 in this one.
Yeah, but again, I think it's interesting that the division of targets between those 3 guys has always been pretty close. It feels like it's all been Jamar Chase because a lot of it is every pass that ends up going in his direction for about 5 weeks was turning into a spectacular play. So it felt like you're just always leaning on him. But actually the targets between the 3 guys is always pretty close. And in this game, again, Jamar Chase has 3 targets, Tyler Boyd has 3, T. Higgins has 7. They do spread the ball around relatively evenly amongst those 3 guys. And it's just a case of which one is going to have the success in that given day. Which guy is getting more open, which guy is making plays
Will they
after.
actually produce?
Right.
And Higgins produced in this one. Big jump ball for a touchdown that he goes up and wins, uses that height. I mean, this is when Cincinnati's really dangerous. When Mixon's running the ball, they're working the play-action game. You have a Jamar Chase, you have T. Higgins, and you have Tyler Boyd to worry about.
The flip side of that is the Steelers are out here with 17 targets going towards Deontay Johnson. It's this is a one-man show, and that's not good.
No, that offense is just it's just not there. Chase Claypool, I mean, look, I said all season their best offense is chucking it up to Chase Claypool. Now, I also admitted when you do that, bad stuff can happen. There's a miscommunication with Big Ben, picks interception early there. But then they keep coming back, chucking it up. And it's a little hit or miss with Chase Claypool down the field. It's not that he wins all the time, but he is the most capable of making those freakish plays. And look, the alternative is handing it off to Najee for 3 yards a carry. So give me the volatile downfield Steelers passing attack just to see if you could hit on a couple. But the volatility was there in this one.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of a game where you're it doesn't really matter what the game plan is. They're just not good enough, It's unfortunate for the Steelers in that record-wise, they're still right in the thick of it. They're chasing a wild card along with a bunch of other teams, and they're not blown out of the water. But if you execute this game plan that you want them to run of just YOLO balls left, right, and center, hope the guys at the end of it make some plays, it's not a particularly high percentage strategy. If you play conservative and you hand it off to Najee Harris, you're just running into a brick wall every play. That's not working either. The dink and dunk style of underneath to Deontay Johnson every play is also not going to work because it's asking for way too few mistakes. Roethlisberger's noodle of an arm is going to just lob one to a defender at some point. They're not capable of beating good teams. And if you play a team like Cincinnati who has guys like Mike Hilton who's capable of reading and jumping on those things, they're just not capable of putting up enough points.
Yeah, is this one of those times when preseason takes are finally starting to catch up here?
That's what I'm saying.
With
the last 4 weeks have sort of said this is actually who the Steelers are. You said that Ben Stockwell compared Ben Roethlisberger's arm to yours.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, where the grading has happened, the reviews of the grades are happening right now, and they're debating, one of the Big Ben's throws. Mm-hmm. Healthy debate because we have chats where all of our reviewers or QB reviewers are in there, and I'm in that chat, and he made a little comparison to me. Yeah. He said, well, when Big Ben's got this Palazzolo arm, what can you expect? He needs to know better not to make that throw. I knew better than to
try and hit the plate?
Throw in, yeah, because if I threw it over the plate, you probably would have crushed it. Who wants that?
Me.
Yeah.
You would quite a lot. Yeah.
Imagine me in a major league game right now.
No,
I'd be throwing so far under the hitting speed, though.
This is what I'm saying. I'm like, part of me is like, oh, this baseball game seems really easy. I understand that I didn't actually do anything with these pitches on the basis that they were 3 yards outside the plate.
Do I have to train right now just so you don't disparage the great game here, the great sport of baseball?
The movement, I think, you threw one that did some weird stuff in terms of movement. That, I think, would be a problem.
One time I threw a slider or a curveball.
That feels like it would be a problem. But the actual speed was miserable.
Yeah, the speed on a slider or a curveball is not supposed to be.
No, not the slider. The speed. Your general speed. Your max out speed of 74 was vaguely pitiful.
Yeah, it's poor high school speed.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
We'll get back. Anyway.
You think the 39-year-old arm's got it in it?
Yeah, we'll be back.
Okay.
I thought 11 years rest would do me well. The movie The Rookie, where the guy came back throwing 98.
Yeah. That's not you.
I went the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was hoping 11 years rest would.
You're like a muscle car. It's been parked in a barn for 25 years, and you drag it out, and it's like got 7 horsepower now. You gotta run it through a full service before you can get those horses back.
Yeah, I don't have time for full service.
No.
The AFC North. We'll touch on the Ravens Browns game, but now Ravens are at 8-3 after their impressive Sunday Night Football win.
Stop.
Crazy win. Bengals are now sole possession of second place, 7-4. I didn't mean to fool you guys. We're not going to Browns Ravens yet. We're not there yet. We'll get there. Bengals now second place, 7-4. The best point differential in the division too, if you're into point differential. But the Steelers 5-1, and then the Browns at 6-6. We're starting to see a little bit of separation in what I thought, along with the NFC West, was the deepest division in the NFL coming into the season. And we're starting to see that. Ravens and Bengals now sitting atop. Are the Steelers cooked for the season here?
Yes. I would find it pretty hard to believe that they turn this around and go. I mean, they're chasing a wild card spot, right? So it feels like they have a very small chance of hitting any kind of wild card spot the way they're playing right now. They would need a fairly significant turnaround, and I'm not sure where it's coming from. Like, they had a lot of their defenders back in this game, and they couldn't stop the Bengals scoring at any point in the game. We just talked about how their offense just isn't capable of it. So where's it coming from? Like, this turnaround, you're expecting essentially Mike Tomlin to overcome the odds on both sides of the ball by himself and coaching, and that feels like a challenge that's just not realistic.
Yeah, Big Ben he's got 2 grades above 70 this year.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't win, and you just can't win with no quarterback play like that. More turnover-worthy plays than big-time throws this season, and it's just not.
And this, by the way, is basically what he was doing last year, including his numbers. Like, box score is okay. It's actually reasonably good this season. But Steelers, it's like, the way sometimes like Pro Bowl voting works on like a year's lag, right? Like, a guy plays really well, and then next year he'll get the recognition for Pro Bowl and All-Pro and all that kind of stuff. Similarly, when a guy like falls off a cliff and he's done, it's going to take a year before people figure it out. He'll still get voted when he's playing like crap. Steelers fans last year were ripping us mercilessly, week upon week, because we were grading Big Ben terribly, despite the fact that his box score was really good. He was playing, the Steelers are winning, all this kind of stuff. It's like this year, nothing's changed. He's still, like, the numbers are still fine. He's still grading the same, but we've realized the truth. It's like, the veil has been lifted. It's like, oh, yeah, he actually is done, cooked, just over. We're not going to argue it anymore. All right.
The thing that's different this year, though, is just the pure negative plays for Big Ben. He's got 10 more sacks this year than last year, including the playoffs. He's been sacked a lot more, and he's already got the same number of turnover-worthy plays this year as he had last year. Last year, they at least, even though last year he averaged 6.1 yards per attempt. I mean, it was terrible. They at least got the ball out and didn't have nearly as many negative plays. And this year they do. And we saw all those interceptions and everything come back to bite yesterday for the Steelers. So, yeah, they have an uphill battle, to say the least. And now the Bengals are right back in the mix. If they don't have that one blip against the Jets, which, there's always that one game I think a lot of teams want back. That one game against the Jets, they'd be sitting there at 8-3.
There's so many games this year. Like, somebody needs to do like a power ranking of games that just make no freaking sense. The Bengals lost to the Jets.
It's one of the biggest. To Mike White and the Jets.
Right. The Bills lost to the Jags. Like, there's just this sequence of games that you're like, what the hell happened?
Yeah. That one, the Bengals would be tied with the Ravens atop the division, 8-3.
Yeah, and the Bills losing the Jags is like a huge game in their season. All of a sudden, they're tied essentially with the Patriots.
The Bills would also be 8-3
with 2 games against the Patriots. Can you imagine what it would be like if they had a game extra, a buffer, to be able to toss one of those away and still be okay?
Well, you got to show up every week here in the NFL,
even against the Jags.
All right, let's go right to that Sunday night football game, though.
Oh God,
16-10. Ravens over the Browns. No, it was entertaining.
Yeah.
Ugly football is entertaining. Oh, man, I missed this one too, huh? You got it. You nailed it.
There you go.
Baltimore by 3.5.
Stop the count. Am I 2-0? Let's end.
You're 2-0 right now.
Are those like my 2 wins of the week?
Probably. The games that we picked.
Yeah.
It wasn't looking good heading into primetime. 16-10. The Ravens set some sort of record as the only team to be like -4 in turnovers and only get less than 325 total yards. And previously, the teams that did that were like 0 in a million, and now they're 1 in a million.
Yeah.
It was like 0 in hundreds. But the Ravens win 16-10, and just an ugly game for both sides here.
This was so bad. You're right. It was entertaining, though, I can't even think of a suitable analogy for how, but just like the way some things that are terrible are quite funny to watch.
Like a circus.
Sure. Yeah, the circus wouldn't be a bad one. Or like, those movies that are so bad they're funny. Like a movie that doesn't think it's funny. Like, it's not an intentional comedy, but it's so awful. Like,
I thought the movie Unbreakable was like that. I know some people actually liked that. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but I thought Unbreakable was so ridiculous that there were some funny lines that came out of it.
Well, like the movie Commando, right? You remember Commando? Arnold Schwarzenegger,
yes.
Like vintage Schwarzenegger.
All of those.
Now that's become so kind of cult that it's almost serious again. But that, at the time, was an intentional, like, action, serious movie. And yet, if you watch even just like the opening sequence now, it's one of the most ridiculous things you'll ever see in your life. And it's hilarious. But it's an unintentional comedy. That's kind of what this was. It was such a complete joke of teams just screwing things up left, right, and center that it was kind of funny to watch. And, late in the game, Cleveland needs to score at some point to win if they have any hope of it. And you're like, you don't want the ball on offense. Like the Ravens punt it to Cleveland. You're like, punt it right back. Like, first down, just kick it back to them. You don't want the ball. Like, you have a way better chance of scoring through something ridiculous happening and getting a pick or a fumble 6 or whatever than you have of Baker Mayfield executing this game-winning drive.
All right, from a Browns perspective, Baker Mayfield had 2 game-winning drive opportunities, and the Browns go 7 and out.
Yeah.
3 and out, punt it back, get one more opportunity. The first opportunity, they were down 3. Get one more opportunity, they're down 6. They go 4 and out. There was one good throw in there. I think it was Jarvis Landry couldn't haul it in on the back shoulder, and then the throw short of the sticks against the blitz. At some point, these are consistent themes here. Baker Mayfield against the Chiefs, against the Chargers. He's got an opportunity to just move the ball in the fourth quarter under with the game on the line. There was another one earlier this year too, and just unable to do it.
They put up a stat. And this doesn't even count like the ones before the half, but they put up a stat that was like Baker Mayfield is now 2-7 in kind of gotta have it, game winning or tying opportunity drives late in the game, et cetera, et cetera.
Are we sure that's true? Because that's actually not bad.
2-7?
2-7 is not bad.
It's not good.
Most quarterbacks are probably in that range. Good quarterbacks are better than that, but most quarterbacks are in that
that's
range.
Not even counting the ones like before the half, like where they screwed one up earlier in this season where they had the same opportunity before the half and just, again, immediate implosion, no shot whatsoever. But so convinced was I was like, I got to write that down for the show tomorrow. But in my brain, it was like, well, he's 2-7. This is literally before the first play of that drive had happened. 2-7, write it down for the show, but he'll be 2-8 tomorrow, so I'll write that down instead. Just wrote down the fact that he was going to screw up this drive as well, and immediately, 4 plays later, it's like, yeah, there we go. It's just you have no confidence, zero of him executing these drives right now, and it's not all him. As you say, there was one pass to Jarvis Landry. It's like it's one of the few plays that Baker Mayfield has actually put in the right place today. You can't help the guy out and adjust to it, with a back shoulder, but it's just I don't know how much of Baker Mayfield's play right now is the fact that like 80% of the man's body is broken. Like he's ending these drives yesterday and then like hobbling his way to the sideline like he's some kind of, military victim, just crawling his way out of battle. It can't be helping. But he's just not playing well enough to win or execute or just be functional at this point. There's so many throws that leave his hands and you're like, oh, that's just... You can't be off by 3 yards in the NFL, right? If you're off by 3 yards in the NFL, you're putting it into a defender's hands. It's one,
You think that's all his injury, though?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know how much of it is, but when a guy can't like leave the field without hobbling as if he's some kind of crash victim, it's got to be part of it. And there's so many throws where, perfectly clean pocket, no pressure, fine fundamentals, footwork's there, and the ball's 3 yards over its intended guy's head. That can't be just like... Nobody in the NFL is that inaccurate as a baseline, and yet Baker is right now.
He's now going through a three-game stretch where he's graded 52 or below. But, he was fine in Week 9 against the Bengals. Remember, the Bengals who just killed the Steelers. The Browns did that to the Bengals a few weeks ago. That was the first game without OBJ where we were like, all right, Baker Mayfield's fixed, right? No OBJ, spreads around, and he's comfortable. And that's why I know like the injuries keep coming back and there's new ones and the whole thing. But that's kind of like part of the package too. We'll talk about that with Stafford and the Rams. It's kind of part of the package. It's part of the decision making, right? Part of the reason why Baker Mayfield is hurt is because of the way he plays and his decisions and the way he takes hits in the pocket. Like you can't juke a defender in the pocket. Big Ben did this too. You can't like move backwards in the pocket and not expect to get popped, right? And Baker was doing that again last night. It's all part of the package. And look, I know this was prime time, and if you just read Twitter right after the game, it's like, all right, let's, this is the only thing I've seen this season about this team, and let's project it forward. If front office decisions were made just off primetime games, can you even see the Browns bringing Baker Mayfield back after this, right? Do they have confidence? Do they chalk it up as a loss? Because at some point, they're going to say, if I'm going to pay the guy, injuries or not, I want to believe that he's going to make a comeback, that he's going to carry us every now and again. When we get rid of OBJ, when we have an injury at tight end, when we have an injury at right tackle, at some point we want our quarterback to carry us. And I don't know if Baker's ever done that outside. Again, a 4-year career, we had stretches of awesome play as a rookie, great stretch of play last year, and they figured out the system and all that stuff. You just don't know what you're going to get from Baker Mayfield every week, except that he's probably not going to get the job done under pressure in the fourth quarter.
I think there's a very difficult decision that teams need to make when it comes to, like, at what point is your not 100% healthy / injured player actually not worth putting out there? Like, because those guys always battle through this kind of stuff and will play if you let them. So at what point do you need to save them from themselves and say, you know what, it's great that you're willing to gut this out and go out there and try and get it done anyway, but you're so banged up right now that it's actually not worth the effort. So Baker Mayfield is clearly going to play this year throughout whatever injuries he has and just try and get it done. But where is in the spectrum of, what % healthy does he need to be for him to be a worse option than Case Keenum? And we've seen this from Stafford for years as well. Like, Stafford will gut it out through whatever injury he's playing. Cam Newton has always done that as well. Like, he'll go out there and play regardless of how banged up he is, and he'll play badly because of it. Like, at what point as a team do you need to say, enough's enough, you're not playing because you're not healthy enough, and therefore you're not, like, it's not fair to you aside from anything else. And it's one thing when you're Cam Newton and your backup is awful and there's just literally no other option. It's like, okay, we understand you're going to play badly, but the alternative is some terrible quarterback, and we just have to live with that. But if you're Baker Mayfield, one, the alternative is Case Keenum, who is one of the better backup quarterbacks in the NFL, and there is a crossover point where bad, busted up Baker Mayfield is probably worse than Case Keenum, and given the last 3 weeks, we've got to be close to that. And two, Baker Mayfield, in theory, is playing for his next contract right now. And it's so, I mean, you're the team, so you're negotiating on the other side. But at some point, don't you owe the guy, like, all you're doing right now is costing yourself money. And it's not even fair to you. Like, dude, just sit down. It's not worth it. We're not going anywhere this year. You're busted. Stop this.
So you're making the decision for me because what you described, well, Cam Newton's banged up every year and Matthew Stafford's banged up every year. Then I don't want to invest in that. I can't invest in that.
Why is it every year? Like, it might just be this year. The dude has got a torn labrum and has had that since week 2. It's not happening. It's not healing until you get off-season surgery.
Because a big part of it is playing style.
Right, but on top of that, he's getting injured with everything else. So, like, sit down. You're not getting healthy now. You're sinking deeper and deeper week on week. You're going to get yourself further and further hurt. And the worse you get, the worse we get. So this is not helping anybody at this point.
Because I don't think it's bad evidence. I think it's good evidence. I mean, you talk about Big Ben was hurt all the time. He played through it. I mean, he can't now. He always played through it his career. He'd miss a game here and there. He would play through it and he'd be fine. Andrew Luck was hurt for a big chunk of his career. There were times where it really affected him. There was he missed 2 full seasons. It eventually caught up. I think this is evidence that you use. Can you play hurt? Can you play through all that? And we're not seeing that.
But there's play hurt is different to can you get it? Can you play with a completely torn labrum in your shoulder for a whole season? I would imagine the answer to that for almost every quarterback in the league is hell no. Of course I can. It's a shoulder. That's a fairly important part of throwing the ball. I understand it's my non-throwing shoulder, but it's part of the whole deal. Of course I can't play through that well. Like I don't think that's a fundamental. I don't think that's fundamental evidence of any time he's suffering any form of injury, he's going to be useless to you. I think it's just the dude is way too banged up right now to be a functional quarterback. So why are we still asking him to be that?
Either way, when the Browns don't run the ball, it is really tough for them to move the ball. They only picked up 40 yards on 17 carries. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb both average under 3 yards per carry. So the Ravens did a really good job up front. Patrick Queen flying around making plays last night for the Ravens. The other thing I was thinking about when I'm watching this Browns offense is we missed this point maybe along the way. They really could use a true number 1 wide receiver. OBJ just was never that guy, right? Like this offense could just use a much better receiver. Jarvis Landry did have a couple big catches. Baker did have a couple nice downfield throws. But a lot of those need somebody to just win type of plays. You don't have that receiver. They wanted OBJ to be that guy, but he just isn't that guy anymore. So Browns certainly in the receiver market this offseason as well, but the offense just struggling with no run game. Defensively, Lamar Jackson had 4 interceptions, 3 of which were just probably all on him, really bad. Some of his passes were just way off. He ends up carrying the ball 17 times for 68 yards. And it's one of those where, the speed doesn't slump type of deals. Like you can have, not that scoring 16 points is good for the Ravens, but even with Lamar passing the ball so horribly, he could still add some value to the offense with the run game, and that's what he did in this one a little bit. I mean, the Browns' defense was fantastic, though, overall.
I think both defenses were really good. Obviously, the Browns were creating some of those turnovers. A lot of them, they were just the beneficiary of a turnover that they didn't even need to create. It was more an unforced error than a forced error. Baltimore's defense, in particular against Cleveland's run offense, did really good. They just stacked the box. Like, almost all what they had. The Browns had 12 of their 17 rush attempts were against 8 or more men in the box. Like they just loaded up the box and said, you're not running against it. When they lost Jack Conklin, that's one of their best run blockers up front as well. They just couldn't get anywhere on the ground. And all of a sudden, again, then the onus is on Baker Mayfield, and we've already talked about how that's not happening at that point. You're right, the lack of a number 1 receiver is a big part of that. Also, they run one of those trick plays, and last time they did that, Jarvis Landry scrambled, turned it into a touchdown out of nowhere. This time, he turned it into a fumble.
Scrambles around, trying to make a play.
Yeah, and that was another one of those, you're like, why do you not, pocket awareness from a wide receiver is probably a little bit much to ask for, but Jarvis Landry's a guy that ran like a 4.8 40, and he doesn't think he's going to get chased down running out of the pocket. Like, come on. At some point, you need to be aware that a dude is coming from behind to tackle you, and you have no shot of actually running away from him. Like, that was Baker Mayfield levels of unawareness. So that didn't help. But, yeah, both defenses did a really good job against what the opposing offense was trying to do. And the key with Lamar is even when he's throwing the ball to defenders or creating turnovers out of nothing, when the game when there's a couple minutes left in the game and all you need to do is like keep the drive going to get, it's so hard to just stop him gaining yards because they're going to use him as part of the run game. They're going to start running those option things. And all they need, if it's 4 down territory, like all they need is 3 yards each time. Like it's so hard to prevent that guy gaining 3 yards when he wants to.
Are we starting to see, though, that maybe the Ravens system isn't as running back proof as maybe we thought? Devontae Freeman and Latavius Murray just have not been nearly as productive as recent Ravens running backs. Is this the league adjusting schematically as you kind of doing the same thing that the Ravens did to the Browns? Stacking the box, what Miami did, stacking the box, zero blitz type of stuff. I'm just making sure that there's no place to run, no place to escape for Lamar. Is that teams selling out to stop the run, or the fact that they, did spend a second-round pick on J.K. Dobbins a couple of years ago, and really, Gus Edwards averaging, over 5 yards per carry. Like those guys weren't just a product of the system, and they're right to say, look, we could use a good running back in this system with as much as we're running. Even with Lamar and a decent run blocking offensive line, they're just not nearly as productive in the run game as they've been in recent years.
I mean, I think the offensive line is a big part of it, though. Like, look at the run blockers now compared with when this offense was at its peak, and it's just not the same. Like, even the additions, all the new offensive linemen or veterans that they brought over, they're not really run blockers. Like, in this game, the great Alejandro Villanueva had a run blocking grade of like 50.
Yeah.
Guys like Kevin Zeitler, who's been a really good addition to this offense, is a better pass blocker than he is a run blocker. They just don't have the like. There's no Marshall Yanda. Yanda's out there, as part of the pregame routine, doing whatever he was doing. There's no Marshall Yanda on this offense anymore, and that is a major difference to what this offense was able to do on the ground when he was there and when they had this great run-blocking offensive line.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Villanueva on pace for his worst grade since his rookie season, or his first year actually starting at tackle years ago. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not Zeitler and Villanueva are big names, depending on who you're listening to. They're good, solid players, but not the skill set that the Ravens usually covet on the offensive line.
This is understanding that Villanueva's grades this year are actually better in the run game than the pass game. Like, he has been a better run blocker than pass protector this year, but you still wouldn't trust him. It's not the same as having like an Orlando Brown out there who is just like bulldozing whoever's in front of him for that rush attack.
By the way, JOK, by the way, he is fun. I remember saying at draft time and tweeted it last night, talked about it in the other podcast too, right? Did they draft JOK just for this game? Just to be like, all right, we're going to take Lamar out. You don't really draft just for 2 games a year in your division, but you do kind of draft with your division in mind. And in this division, the Bengals wanting to run the ball, Ravens certainly wanting to run the ball. The Browns added a ton of speed, and JOK coming back off of his injury, you just still see that he's not rusty at all. I mean, his speed is incredible. Tracked down Lamar a couple times. They did use him as a spy. You can use him as a pass rusher. He blitzed 10 times yesterday, but solid grades across the board for JOK, an absolute weapon for that Browns defense.
He is the player that people thought Patrick Queen was. And not just Patrick Queen, because he actually had a pretty good game yesterday, even if it was a fairly stark outlier from the rest of his career so far. But you can trace this like sequence of NFL linebackers that the league has been looking for like a decade. Patrick Queen, Jalen Smith, Isaiah Simmons. There's this whole world of these guys that are freaky athletes, incredible speed, great in space, and almost none of them have ended up being good. And, Quan Alexander, there's just millions of these dudes. Almost all of them are from LSU, by the way, for some reason. But JOK is the guy. Like, he's the one where from day one it looks like even this year, Jamin Davis, similar idea, right? Freaky speed, size, all this kind of stuff. Just doesn't play the same way. JOK is the one guy who's hit the ground running, and it just plays like 1,000,000 miles an hour, goes as soon as he sees something, has zero hesitation, and it works.
Yeah, and he was supposed to maybe have a slower transition because he was playing a different position at Notre Dame, but he hasn't at all. And I think, credit the Browns for putting him in that position to just see it and fly to the ball. So that's been fun. I would say the Ravens survive. Credit their defense for what they did to slow down the Browns' rushing attack, as you said, and then defensively. Look, for whatever you want to say about Mayfield, there weren't a ton of open throws. There was like 2 open downfield throws early in the game or throughout the game. Ravens were locking down all of the Browns' receivers for the most part. So Ravens are sitting atop the AFC, number 1 seed at the moment at 8-3. But it's tight.
Poor Jack Conklin.
I know, Jack Conklin's out again.
You see his knee give way when he was trying to walk off the field?
Yes.
That's got to suck.
Yeah, they were supposed to cart him. Kevin Stefanski said significant knee injury. He's coming off torn? He was coming off a biceps injury or something?
Something upper body.
So I think Conklin's probably out for the season.
Yes. I mean, your knee doesn't do that unless there's something missing from it.
Right. So, yes, definitely. I mean, he's a huge part of that really good rushing attack that the Browns have.
I can't even imagine how much that sucks, by the way, to have like something give way in your knee. Whatever about normal people, but when you weigh 330 pounds or whatever, that's gotta really suck.
Oh yeah, when you're our weight, you're it's just more pressure on those joints. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I do. I mean, not personally, obviously, because I don't weigh 330, but in spirit, I get it.
Only took us 40 minutes to get through those 2. Perfect. We're right on pace here today. We got a great deal for everybody right now. Working from home is more important than ever, and you can optimize your home office with an X chair and our many accessories to enhance your focus, productivity, energy, and comfort. Don't fast forward right now. Listen to this deal, and you can see it on the screen. $500 on the line here. Once you feel
$500?
Yes, $500 off. Once you feel the customized support of the X chair's patented dynamic variable lumbar, there's no going back. That's the DVL. It's all in the LMX massage and temperature regulation, exclusively designed and made for the X-Chair. With versatile comfort and extraordinary design, X-Chair fits any space. High performance, quality engineering. It's extreme comfort as well. All the reasons I love my X-Chair, which I use at home, at my home office. Look at that thing on YouTube. The massaging, the heating, the cooling, it's all there. So I love working from home because of my X-Chair. So now's the perfect time to purchase an X-Chair. And why is that? Because, as I said, it's the only time X-Chair goes on sale all year. That's right. It's on Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend. So it's Cyber Monday right now. And you could save up to $500 on X-Chair, 4 days only on Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend. Go to xchairnflpod.com now. That's the letter X, chair, nflpod.com. X-Chair has a 30-day guarantee of complete comfort, and you can finance your purchase for as little as $25 a month. Go to xchairnflpod.com and save up to $500. xchairnflpod.com. If you're watching on YouTube, you can check out the link in the description. It took me about 10 minutes to put this thing together as well. So you
to be clear,
get it going.
This is a specific $500 off for our link, for our podcast.
Just our link.
We are saving you $500 for this thing.
Yes.
That has a 30-day money-back guarantee. You try it for free, essentially, for 30 days. Get $500 off because you're a listener to our podcast. And the chair's awesome. It's comfortable. It's easy to put together, even for a idiot like you. It's perfect. This is go do it. Go deal.
Yeah, go do it right now. xchairnflpod.com.
We need to get
this thing's a high-end chair, which is why we can give you $500 off.
We need to figure out like the studio thing here, so that instead of sitting on these bar stools, we get X chairs.
Yeah, because I think it elevates enough.
I don't think it elevates this much. I mean, we are sitting pretty high in these things.
Well, just push the table down.
Push the table down.
I would much rather sit in my X chair than
that's what I'm saying.
Anything else.
I don't know
that
pushing the table down is the solution to the problem, though.
We need a bar stool X chair adjustment, bar stool height.
Well, yeah, some kind of platform maybe for the chair to sit on, as opposed to trying to squish the table that's wood. I don't think that's going to work.
Titans Patriots. The Patriots pull away to win 36-13. It felt like in this one. So the Patriots maintain first place in the AFC East. They are rolling right now. Hottest team in the NFL. As we mentioned earlier, they've got first place on the line against the Bills next week. What?
Just somebody in the YouTube chat was saying an idea for the charity drive is to shave your head if we reach $20,000, which I think was lower than the figure you quoted, because I've asked you that before. Like,
probably 50.
What would it take to shave the noggin? And I think you've quoted much higher than 20.
It'd have to be 50. It'd go to my friends at Heritage House. I would probably shave it for that if we got to 50.
That's a hell of, I mean, that's a weird and impressive commitment to that haircut.
What?
I mean,
it's all right.
It's just
It's good hair.
It's incredible.
It's good hair.
It's an incredible commitment to that hair.
It's good hair.
Like, it would take you high 5 figures to shave that off. Because to be honest, it's worth about $16.
My haircuts are way more than that, though.
No, I know that, but it's worth about $16.
What do you mean? I could keep a whole family warm with my hair that gets cut off. It's very valuable.
Well, I mean, what?
My hair is very valuable. You turn it into like blankets and stuff like that. Anyway, let's talk about this game. I don't know why you're talking about my hair and haircuts and all that stuff.
It was in the chat box.
I do it for 50. 36-13.
$1,000.
Titans run for 270 yards.
Oh, look at this. I got another one right.
Oh, you did, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, I did too.
Did you add them up right? Because I'm on a roll right now. Do I go 0 for the next?
Yeah, I don't think you got many after this.
Okay.
So New England continues to dominate. I think. So what are your thoughts on this game? 36-13. To me, it felt like the Titans were doing everything they could, an outmanned Titans team, doing everything they could to keep it close, and they just couldn't do it. New England, healthier, rolling, and the Titans, again, their injuries and inability to just throw the ball in recent weeks starting to catch up.
Yeah, I mean, if the Titans had 3 wide receivers on the active roster in this game, they had their running backs like Dontrell Hilliard, my guy, was like their primary weapon in the backfield. They just, what do we expect from them?
The other perspective, if you were a New England fan, you'd say, yeah, it was kind of a freak play. Dontrell Hilliard breaks through the line for a 68-yarder before the half. As New England kept trying to pull away. You're kind of expecting it. Titans would make a key stop, force a field goal. Dontrell Hilliard runs for a 68-yarder, and it's like, wow, the Titans might be able to pull this off again. They might be able to do it again. This is what they've been doing all season, just coming up big when they really shouldn't. But they didn't. New England was just too much in this one.
Yeah, they just at some point you've run out of too many players. You're dealing with not enough, and the Titans just literally did not have enough weaponry here to hang with the New England Patriots. And look, the Patriots rode some luck as well, like that play to Kendrick Bourne, where he just, for some reason, the entire Titans defense just decided, no, we're not going to bother tackling him. We're just going to let him go. So that can kind of offset your Hilliard play, where it's like one random play that shouldn't have happened for either defense. But, I mean, as much as the Patriots don't have the best weapons in the world, like, it's night and day, the difference between what they were able to deploy and what the Titans were able to deploy. It's basically Ryan Tannehill trying to operate with a preseason like second string.
But the sum of New England's parts are good. And this is where, look, I spent all offseason saying this better pay off for New England. This investment in Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne, Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry had better pay off. And this is one of those games where it did. Kendrick Bourne, contested catch in the end zone. I don't even think it was a great throw. That thing's broken up, 98% of the time over Kevin Byard. Bourne I think it was Kevin Byard, right?
Yeah.
Bourne just wins.
He actually had his hand in there.
That's what I mean. Like, when his hand is in between the receiver and the ball.
From Byard's point of view, it's really unlucky that was caught. He had his hands between the arms of Bourne, and usually you rip it out and it's gone.
Yeah.
When he went to rip, it was right at the time Bourne kind of shifted it from one hand or from two hands to the one hand, which was the side that Byard wasn't trying to rake. It's like a perfect play from Bourne, really unlucky from Byard, and just like the millimeter details of the difference between scoring and not.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. In a game like this where Bourne makes that incredible contested catch, runs up the sideline for another touchdown, he produced. Jonnu Smith, they use, getting the ball to him in space, let him create after the catch, and a 9-yard carry in there as well. Jacoby Myers always seems to just get open. Aguilar and Hunter Henry had a couple catches and all that stuff, but you've Brandon Bolden, rejuvenated again with 54 receiving yards. It's just another old school classic Patriots, ton of contributors, and in this particular case, it's a lot of the guys that they invested in, and I think they're starting to see that come to fruition. The other difference, I think, for this New England team versus last year, the rushing attack was just okay in this game. Last year, it seemed like they could only win when they had the run game going. With Cam Newton under center, there weren't many games, if any, where the run game wasn't there and they won it with the pass game. And I keep going back to, I like to go back to preseason takes. What's the difference in the Patriots this year? They can win without the run game. They can win with defense plus the passing attack. So Mac Jones throws for over 300 yards. A lot of that is what we're saying. Kendrick Bourne after the catch, or winning at the catch point, or Jacoby Myers getting open. They did a really nice job winning through the air when they couldn't do that a year ago, and that's why they put up 36 points and, pull away late.
Can you explain how the ball finds J.C. Jackson?
No, that was ridiculous. Another interception for him.
But
just tips backwards to him.
He's another one of these players that is clearly, he's a ball hawk style of corner. He has very good ball skills. He can catch an interception that's thrown in his general direction and break on the ball. And there are a lot of corners that just can't do that, right? They don't have the skills that even when they're in reasonable position to catch it, there's a pretty good chance they're not going to. J.C. Jackson will usually catch those. On the other hand, but he also has what feels like a massively disproportionate amount of balls that just land in his lap from completely random, nothing to do with good play. You know what I mean? Like it's tipped, or it's a ridiculous read by the quarterback and he just is standing there when somebody fires it at his face. This was another one. Like Devin McCourty, I think, got his hand on the ball, and like in the back of the end zone, nowhere near the play, it just lands in J.C. Jackson's hands. It's like another pick for the dude that just has so many picks. I don't understand how there are these corners that seem to get that luck.
Yeah, I don't either. There's not much. Look, I mean, at some point, over time, you're just like, okay, over time, it's probably skill, but there are individual plays like this where it's like, okay, you're a ball magnet. It's JC.
Yeah.
But New England's
But there are also players that go through a run of that and it like never comes back again.
J.C. Jackson's on like a 3-year run here.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Run.
It's a weird, like, who was the Jarius Byrd? Remember there's like a season and a half where the ball would just land in Jarius Byrd's hands constantly, and then Jarius Byrd disappeared from the face of the earth and was never the same player again.
Yeah. New England's pass defense continues to be really good. Just tough to move the ball on them. Again, the Titans did everything they could with some explosive runs and the whole deal, but just they couldn't move the ball when they needed to. They were just outmanned. Mac Jones on his side, it actually wasn't his cleanest game. It was a great game statistically. Wasn't one of his cleanest games. A few misses, key third down misses. Had a turnover-worthy play in there as well. But again, here's the difference with the Patriots. Mac Jones, about a 53 passing grade. If that happened last year, they don't have a shot at winning. They just don't. New England does not have a shot last year if the quarterback doesn't play well. Now they do, even with Mac Jones not having one of his better games, and he'd been playing a really clean brand of football in recent weeks. He doesn't have to have his best game for the Patriots to win because this defense is playing lights out, and again, the playmakers can take over or the run game can take over. The Patriots have multiple ways to win. It'll all be put to the test against the Bills, 2 out of the 3 next week, next 3 weeks. But New England is as hot as any team right now. You buying in that they've got a legit shot at this number 1 seed?
Yeah. I think they'll get it.
Did you do your playoff sim again?
I haven't done it since this week. No, I haven't run.
You got to redo it every week.
Run the single simulation again.
New information has come to light.
I do think that they match up really well with Buffalo, though, and that the fact that Buffalo won this week and the way they won is not necessarily that important. I mean, it's important for them in terms of they got another win. They kind of closed the gap on New England again, or kept pace with them. However way you want to phrase it, it was an important win from them in that perspective. But in terms of there is a clear blueprint on both sides of the ball to beat Buffalo. I don't know that they answered any of those questions in that game because the Saints just didn't have the capacity to run those game plans, whereas I think New England absolutely does.
Yeah, it's going to be great. New England moves to 8-4. So, by the way, it's really weird. They used to get all the buys out of the way before Thanksgiving, right? And then after Thanksgiving, nobody has buys in December. And Patriots haven't had their bye week yet, which is it's odd to me this late in the season.
And Eric has been making the point that teams with late bye weeks have had a good record of Super Bowl runs recently. So another notch in the New England case.
Yeah, so they've got a chance at a legit run here.
Ryan Tannehill, is there a better example of like how important environment is around a quarterback than Ryan Tannehill at the moment? Like when Derrick Henry's there, when A.J. Brown is there, when they've got receivers, Ryan Tannehill is grading as basically the best quarterback in the NFL.
But
even if there was always an understanding that, you know, he was being buoyed a little bit by the offense and by the guys around him, all of a sudden there's nobody left and Ryan Tannehill's grading in the 40s.
I would rather my A/B analysis there being lose Derrick Henry but keep Julio Jones and A.J. Brown. I would have liked to see that. That is literally the three dudes that they spent the offseason building their offense around are all hurt.
But we've gone from like one extreme to the other, which is really good environment. Tannehill all of a sudden goes from Miami Tannehill to like the best graded quarterback in the NFL. And then you take away all of that and you go back to Miami circumstances and Tannehill goes right back to Miami Tannehill. Like this is the grade he had in this game is basically where he was grading at the end of his Miami tenure. Only nobody's really noticed because we still appreciate him as being quite a good Ryan Tannehill again. But like that's what we're talking about when we talk about quarterback environments. If you are in a crappy situation, and this is relevant to Trevor Lawrence, to like Justin Fields earlier in the season, to like these quarterbacks that are struggling right out of the gate, look at the things around them and then say, what should we reasonably expect from this guy given what he's surrounded by? Ryan Tannehill is living proof that you can play at an all-pro level or a disaster depending on what's around you in essentially exactly the same team.
I think that's going to be I really think that's going to be more important than ever going forward. And again, I'll keep referencing the post Brady, Rodgers, Breeze, Peyton, Big Ben, Phillip Rivers, this era where they were pretty distinct top quarterbacks. I don't know that we're, especially if Mahomes keeps, remains coming back down to earth the way he has, we're going to see this world in the NFL where the quarterback's always going to be the trump card. It's always going to be the most important element. But I think the supporting cast is going to be elevated even further because I don't think there's a massive difference. If Mahomes goes back to otherworldly level, that's different. But beyond him, we might see much less separation between the top quarterbacks here, and environment is going to be the key for any team. Stocking up on playmakers and play callers and the whole deal. So, again, New England rolls 36-13 in this one. Got to tell you about our friends over at DraftKings. We all love an action-packed, high-scoring NFL game, but with the latest no-brainer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, you'll be a winner once a single point is scored. That's it. New customers who bet just $1 on any team to score can win $100 in free bets. It's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't yet available in your state, you can still get in on the NFL action. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy sports contests. And DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet just $1 on any team to score and win $100 in free bets. If they score, you score with promo code PFF this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. You must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. I don't know how long these deals are going to last, but this is another no-brainer, as they said. DraftKings Sportsbook. Bet just $1 on any team to score, and you can win $100 in free bets. All right, where are we going to go here? Let's talk Jets. Let's stay in the AFC East here.
Okay.
Jets Houston. Jets win 21-14 in Zach Wilson's return. Your cheat code, Tyrod. Of course, there we go. You finally lost one here. You bet on Tyrod.
Did.
And he had the bomb to Brandon Cooks.
Yep.
A little freak interception.
Yep.
By
that didn't help.
Franklin Myers.
Yep.
And
secret superstar Franklin Myers.
Secret superstar for those in England watching the Jets this past year. What'd you think of this game?
I mean it was. I think the Texans probably should have won. They had a good lead established. They were in good position, even with that ridiculous, batted interception that almost turned into a pick six from Franklin Myers. And then they just couldn't stop the Jets' ground game. The Jets established the run all of a sudden, and the Texans couldn't stop it for basically the entire second half. And that was basically it. Zach Wilson still looked terrible. He just came back, same old story. making a bunch of problems or making a bunch of bad plays. Even some of the plays that were sort of freaky bad luck were just comically, like, it just fit into the whole narrative of this is tragic. Like, starts to scramble up the middle.
His one interception.
Sees his running back.
Look at this. We got a.
There you go.
We got a still.
Like, flicks him the ball to dump it off. Only the exact moment he's decided to do that, the running back has decided that, oh, look, my quarterback's scrambling. I'll turn around and block for him. And it hits him like in the back of the head and bounces to somebody for an interception. It's like, okay, that's just unlucky, right? It's just bad. It's just a freak accident of timing where this happens all the time, where you're out running and the guys around you have to make this decision of, when do I go from I'm a receiving option for the quarterback to I need to turn and block for him because he's going to scramble? And he just decided to throw the ball to the running back at the exact moment the running back had decided it was time to flip from one to the other. But it's objectively hilarious. And that's kind of where we are with Zach Wilson now. Like, he's just descended into this parody of a quarterback.
That particular still that we were seeing was him flipping the ball off the running back's back, which bounced up for
the interception.
Interception, right, that you just described. I'll say he had two other turnover-worthy plays, and I'm trying to figure out how much of this is on Elijah Moore as well. Wilson, I don't think, played well at all, but he's got a slant to Elijah Moore twice where Moore kind of drifts up the field and does not Zach and Bruce, our two, old QB guru and new one, would always say receivers being friendly for their quarterback. And Elijah Moore didn't seem like he was creating a friendly target for his quarterback. He was almost running this, I don't know if he was running a slant seam, but he was kind of running the seam. I don't know. Something was off on both of them. One was off an RPO where Zach's a little bit late and receiver has a chance to, DB has a chance to pick it off. Another one is when Wilson pulls it down, scrambles, and he fumbles, which is bad by Zach Wilson. I'm just saying, when you talk about situation, there's also little stuff like that where the guy you're supposed to throw it to is either not running the route right or not creating a friendly target, and then you got to do something else. Now, I'm not saying fumble it. I'm not saying throw it into the leverage of the defensive back, but I still think there's work to do with the actual situation around Zach Wilson. I think more importantly for him, I'm watching him and I'm just thinking, I know he just got back to practice, but I'm like, has he practiced? Has he been coached? His footwork on just easy stuff is atrocious. And that was the case earlier in the year. But, I mean, overthrowing passes to the flat, I cannot believe I know the preseason's different from the regular season, Sam. Good. I know it's completely different.
It's a good step.
I just can't believe how different he looks from preseason to regular season.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, for all the positives that we said that we saw from him in the preseason, pretty much looks the same pre to regular season. Speed of processing and all that stuff. Zach Wilson is like a completely different player where you saw processing speed in the preseason. You saw just commitment to making the throw right away. You saw accuracy. The footwork wasn't atrocious. I mean, those things have completely changed. And that's not like, oh, it's just a vanilla defense. It's all against backups. Your footwork, look at that. Sam was coughing and nobody even heard it. Nobody even heard it because of the cough button. They're back.
It's beautiful.
They're here.
Only 2 years in the making.
It's a mute button. I can run over and mute you anytime I want.
Run over?
Yeah, just right around the table. It would happen quick.
Yeah.
I'm nimble. They cover me up with a full screen. So with Zach Wilson, I just can't believe how different he looks. Fundamentally, not performance, not stats or anything like that. Fundamentally from the preseason to the regular season.
Yeah, it looks. That was the thing. In preseason, it was amazing just how comfortable and easy and natural it all looked. Now everything is a struggle. And as tends to be the way in the NFL, when things go badly, they have a habit of really spiraling. And even when things are like, even when he does something right, it ends up going badly. So there was one play where he evaded pressure, got out, put the ball in the back of the end zone, and his tight end couldn't come up with it. You're like, God, it feels, even when
that was a tough catch, though.
It was, but like, come on, the dude, nothing is going right for the man. Like in the one play where he actually does something and puts it in a position where you might come up with it. Like, what? That's your job. That guy's dealing with a lot. All you need to do is come up with that ball.
The guy's dealing with a lot.
Just help the dude out once.
I mean, Braxton Berrios helped him out. He had a 46-yarder on a little hitch route. That was the only offense the Jets created.
Yeah, true.
Robert Saleh had a couple. The one good throw I thought Zach Wilson did make, 4th and 5 in Texans territory, little timing route on the dig. Ball location wasn't great, but he threw it early and he got it there to convert it. And then the 4th and 1 that the Jets converted as well, and went for in Houston territory with the game on the line, and they get it, and that was huge as well. So I thought there was a couple 4th down decisions by Robert Saleh that ended up being the difference in the game here, being aggressive late.
Yeah, I mean those are. You have to do that, right? If you're the Jets, you're only playing the Texans, so it's not quite the same as playing most other teams in the NFL. But you're a bad team right now. You're hemorrhaging points. You can't do that all kick it away and play defense kind of thing. Because generally, even as a defensive coach, because your defense has been getting gashed by everybody this season, so go for it. Be aggressive. Try and maximize those win percentage points and score, and they did.
So Jets win 21-14. I don't think there's anything else to say here. I think at some point, maybe on our Wednesday show, having like a little rookie QB, people love talking about the rookie QBs, but having a little assessment of all of them at this point might make sense, right? Have a little review of Trevor and Zach Wilson, Fields, whatever we've seen from Trey Lance and Mac Jones.
The misery show is what you're pitching here.
Yeah. I mean, I think we should at least have a little assessment of where they're at, what they need to work on. We'll spend some off-season time there too. But clearly we're seeing the situations weren't great, haven't been great for those QBs at the top. Saw it again yesterday with Zach Wilson. Another AFC East team, Miami Dolphins, 33-10 over the Carolina Panthers. The AFC East went 4-0 this week in all of their games. Cam Newton goes 5 for 21 passing. He had 4 batted passes and 5 completions in this game. Meanwhile, Tua on the other side, with an average depth of target of about 4, goes 27 for 31 for 230. Just a lot of completions for Tua. Now second in the NFL in completion percentage in that short passing game. But it wasn't all just dink and dunk. He had a couple nice throws in there. Fumble that he'd probably want back. Not navigating the pocket as well as he had before. Both offensive lines were rough in this game.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
As expected.
Given the talent that they have. The Tua is making this a really interesting and difficult decision for Miami, like what they do going forward. Because it's not like he's playing particularly well, but he's not playing badly either. And we just talked about like how important environment is for a quarterback. Tua's environment sucks. Like, okay, his receivers are not terrible, and Jalen Waddle had the best game of his career.
Waddle was fantastic in this game.
Absolutely. Had the best game of his career, looked really good in this game, looked incredible. Had another one of those catch and runs where he made a ton of yards after the catch, all this kind of stuff. But it's the worst offensive line in the NFL by a freaking distance. It's one of the worst offensive lines we've ever seen.
Not in this game, though.
No, but it's...
The Panthers, this is one... finish your thought. Because I want to talk about how bad the Panthers' offensive line was.
Yes, Carolina's offensive line was terrible, but Miami's offensive line is abysmal, and Tua's average time to throw was 2.2 seconds in this game, and he was still under pressure a decent amount. Like, their offensive line is a travesty. So if you're talking about what is the environment around the quarterback in terms of how much is it defining his parameters of how good he can be, Tua's offensive line is a crippling millstone around his neck, and he's still playing reasonably well. Not great, but reasonably well. So that makes it it's really difficult to try and figure out where his ceiling is.
I think the bigger issue here is, are the Dolphins running this offense because of their offensive line or because of Tua? Right? Are they running this, again, average depth of target of 4, and it's a whole bunch of it's misdirection and little rollouts and screens and flat passes and all that stuff, right? It is all of that, which is good. Again, I contradict myself a lot, Sam. I don't know if anybody believes that here. I contradict myself a lot, like also picking Carolina. That was bad. I contradict myself and say, hey, offense, go be really aggressive. And then when teams are too aggressive, I say, well, you got to have the easy stuff too. Obviously, you got to have some sort of balance between the two. I'm wondering, is Miami in this uber conservative mode because they don't trust Tua to throw the ball down the field much? Another game, no real big-time throws. Couple good ones, though. Touchdown to Jalen Waddle with anticipation. Had another deep out in there, I think, from the slot that was just like he's capable of making those throws, but you don't want him making more than two. Do you just not want him making more than 2 or 3 a game? Do you not think he's capable of making more than 2 or 3? Are they running this offense because they have to protect the offensive line or because they have to protect Tua? Because they're going to go into this offseason. If they roll with Tua again next year, they're going to try to rebuild this offensive line, presumably the same way the Chargers did last year. Even though they invested, and one of those guys will probably have a year 3 breakout that I'll talk about and all that stuff, they got to go heavy O-line. Because, I think the playmaker situation is pretty solid. When you see what a Jalen Waddle did in this situation, if they bring back Mike Gesicki when Devontae Parker's healthy, he hasn't been, it's not a bad group. And it's just a matter of what can they do behind this line. It was the dig route to Waddle, which was really nice from Tua, that he turned into a 50-plus yard.
I think this is the problem, is that this is why I'm saying it's an interesting and difficult decision, because you don't know, right? The offensive line right now is so bad that there's no way of knowing where Tua's baseline actually is. We can see he's playing reasonably well, okay, however you want to define it right now. What we're seeing from Tua, it's at least intriguing, but you've no idea if that's like, what is the percentage, if you take him right now, pluck him out of the Dolphins, park him somewhere with just a middle-of-the-road offensive line, what percentage does his baseline go up? Right? Yeah. Is it 10%? Is it 30%? Is it 60%? You've no clue. So, like, that is a massive variable in this whole evaluation of the most important part of your entire franchise going forward. You spent the number 5 overall pick on this guy, and right now you literally have no idea how good he is. You know he's at least not a completely non-viable train wreck, despite the fact that he's got the worst offensive line in the league in front of him. But you don't know if he's, like, below average, above average, good. You know he's probably not elite based off just the lack of like incredible throws from his game. But like they are staring into this situation with zero idea about the most important player on the franchise.
What if you put him in the Brown system or the Niners system? What if you made him Jimmy Garoppolo, which he is? Jimmy Garoppolo replacement. I mean, not replacing, but like if you put him into Jimmy Garoppolo's situation in San Francisco, I think Tua would look pretty good statistically.
Maybe
a little bit better. Anyway, Jalen Waddle's game I thought was fantastic. By the way, just to reiterate on that, the dig route that he took, for a huge gain, he just looked fast. I mean, it was one of the first games where he just looked faster than everybody, as we expected. He had 6 receiving first downs out of 16 between both teams in this particular game.
The strike rate of like receivers in the draft recently has been insane. Like every year you go into this, like, God, everyone's got their receiver that they love and they think is the best in the NFL
Except
draft.
For Jalen Reagor.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't say it was perfect. I just said it was very good. So everyone's got their receiver that they love, and you get the arguments about what the ranking should be. And like the bottom line appears to be that almost all of them are good. Like the capacity, the volume that college football is pumping into the NFL in terms of receiving talent over the last few years has been mental. And we've had the Jamar Chase run of 5 games or whatever where he was incredible. Devontae Smith has had a couple of games where he's broken out. There have been all these games, and this was Waddle's like game where, if you were of the opinion that Waddle was the best receiver or the biggest talent in this draft, this was your game. But there's been one of those for every one of these guys. It's incredible just the talent that the college puts in the league at that position these days.
This is why I'm saying if we can't separate, if we don't really know what Tua is versus Jimmy Garoppolo versus Baker Mayfield and all these other guys, this is why the investment in playmakers is so important. We got Ben Stockwell chiming in here. He wants to see Tua in New Orleans. He wants to send him to Sean Payton.
Okay.
See if Sean Payton can work that magic with another undersized, average-armed quarterback like a Tua. Anyway, only 4 incompletions in this one for Tua. Did have a bad fumble in the pocket, 2 turnover-worthy plays total. So kind of a weird game for him, for a guy that did not have a whole bunch of incompletions. I talked about as bad as the Dolphins' offensive line has been this year, this might be the worst offensive line performance I've ever seen by the Panthers. It really might be. Jalen Phillips looked like Lawrence Taylor out there, all in part because every time, like when the Dolphins ran a stunt, free run at Cam Newton or PJ Walker. So as much as poor Cam, whatever. I mean, this was just bad.
I mean, read the grades. So pass blocking grades right now. The Dolphins had 6 offensive linemen that played 17 or more pass blocking snaps. The pass blocking grades of those 6, 24.3, 0.
Panthers.
Yes.
Yes, you said Dolphins.
Sorry. 24.3, 0, 18.9, 49.9, the high watermark from Taylor Moton, the right tackle.
And Moton's their best. He was their best.
13.5 and 48. So not a single one of 6 offensive linemen earned a grade above 50 out of a 0 to 100 scale. And one of them had a grade of 0.
Yeah, it was just ridiculous. Just domination up front by the Dolphins and just putrid play by the Panthers. So Cam Newton goes 5 for 21, and there was a reason for it.
There were multiple reasons.
It wasn't just. I mean, you can't really pressure quarterbacks like 60, 70% of the time. This is about 50% pressure rate, which is 20% above usual. But it was quick pressure. It was unblocked pressure, like I said, and then 4 batted passes by the Dolphins against Cam. Those all are 5 total, including one on P.J. Walker. Those all are pass rushing plays as well. So the Dolphins' pass rush also deserves a ton of credit. They were all fantastic up front.
There was you're right. And then PJ comes in and it's immediately like as bad, if not worse, right? Sack and then running out away for pressure, interception, all these kinds of. But I think of the sack, it was Jalen Phillips chasing him out of the pocket, snags him, grabs him to the ground, and like clearly face masked him, right? And uncalled.
I didn't see it.
Right. Neither did the officials, apparently. But my favorite part about it was as soon as it happened, PJ like immediately puts his arms out and is like, "Where the hell is the flag? I just got taken to the ground by my face mask." And at the exact same moment, Jalen Phillips jumped up and was like, hands in the air. "I didn't touch him. Not a thing. What are you talking about?" If you're the official and the 2 players involved immediately have those exact reactions, throw the flag. Like, it happened. Whether or not you saw it or not doesn't really matter. If one dude is 100% convinced that he got fouled and the other guy is immediately protesting that he did nothing, he definitely fouled him. Throw the flag.
You can't ref the game based off player reactions.
You have to. You got to understand the reactions here. You got to understand it. These are the things. This is veteran savvy if you're an official, right? There's, times where they're sort of talking and you're not supposed to use the replay, but you talk with the officials long enough that they show it on the big screen. You can go, there's the correct decision. Yeah. This is just a version of that, right? You need to understand the other factors and environmental things that go into this decision. You didn't see the face mask. On the other hand, they both reacted in a way that 100% tells you it happened.
Yeah, well, maybe it should have been a face mask.
Yeah.
Either way, domination up front by the Miami Dolphins. 33-10. Dolphins moved to 5-7. They're both teams 5-7 right now.
Miami's season
coming from different angles, right?
Despite like where they were at one point, which was like chasing a number 1 overall pick at some point in the season, they are not dead in terms of the playoffs yet.
Yeah, and they're I thought they'd be around 500
right
this season.
I don't think they're going to make it, but
back there
they're interestingly on a charge.
5-7 Dolphins, 5-7 Carolina Panthers. We got to go quicker.
You're telling me we're not going to make our
I don't think we're going to do it under 2 hours
deadline?
because there's a lot of good stuff to talk about. Atlanta Falcons 21, Jacksonville Jaguars 14. This is not one of the good games to talk about, so we'll just sneak it through here. Falcons win pretty handily, and I'm still underwhelmed with Trevor Lawrence. Matt Ryan had a Tua-like average depth of target under 4
he also
in this
had
particular game, but the real key is
passes ever.
Yeah,
not even like one of the worst passes ever that was in no way dangerous. Because there's some really bad passes where he just pitched to a linebacker for a touchdown. But, like, he had a running back out there in the flat somewhere and missed him by about 5 yards over his head. Like, it's not very often you can look at a throw that an NFL quarterback makes and genuinely, realistically say, I could have done better than that. I would have got closer than Matt Ryan did on that pass.
Oh, you're just riding. Also, you made contact with 169-mile-an-hour fastball, and you just got confidence you could do anything.
I guarantee I would have got closer than that throw. Under no pressure, just missed him by 5 yards.
Yeah, just another ugly game here. I mean, you talk about what's around people, and Trevor Lawrence. Laquan Treadwell was the top receiver for the Jaguars in this one. I mean, good for him, catching 4 for 53. Those have to be career highs for Treadwell, right?
I can't imagine that they're not.
Legitimately, 4 for 53 might be Treadwell's career highs.
Might be. I'd be stunned if they weren't at this point.
Look, I'm not researching that.
No, absolutely not. 2 points I would like to make about this game, and then we can get the hell out of here.
Cordero Patterson's awesome. Yeah,
Yes.
that's one.
The Atlanta Falcons had gone 27 consecutive drives without scoring a touchdown. And by the way, those were drives that Cordero Patterson was injured and not on the field for. All of a sudden, Patterson's immediately back in the lineup. Boom, touchdown to Patterson. Boom, touchdown. Like, the dude is amazing. He's your best player on offense, and he's a guy that like half the league is dumped through not being able to figure out how to use. It's actually horrific negligence at this point. The fact that multiple teams have not really been able to unlock this guy. The Minnesota Vikings, the Chicago Bears, the New England Patriots, we've been inching towards this, but how has he lasted this far into his career before people realize that he's one of the best playmakers in the league?
It's impressive. It's really impressive.
Number 2. Actually, let's give a bit of good and a bit of bad, right? Marvin Jones, one of the catches of the season, insane one-handed snag, plucks it out of the air. Beautiful. So, it's an NFL game. There's some like pre-game entertainment, some kind of things that happen. The Jags mascot did some kind of bungee jump off a crane thing. There you go.
We have pictures for everything.
He got stuck on the bungee, and they had to like winch him into the 400 section of the stands, which pretty much sums up Jacksonville's season, right?
Jackson DeVille.
Yeah, Jackson DeVille does a bungee jump and gets stuck on the crane, and they can't get him down, so they have to like lower him into the 400 section of the stadium before the game.
The good news is there was plenty of room for him to get down.
Absolutely.
He wasn't going to land on any people.
Seats. But like, does anything sum up Jacksonville's season more than that?
No.
No, it really doesn't,
No.
right? It's like that kind of sets the stage for the game we're about to have here.
But Jags fans, you can do what I do, is always go back. The 1990 Jags will never let you down, at least until the playoffs.
Sure.
The regular season, they won't let you down. So I go back and watch 99 Jags games. And the Mark Brunell era was fun. Jags fall to 2-9. Falcons up to 5-6, and still technically hashtag in the hunt in the NFC.
Yeah.
I believe they have the Bucs next week, and got to do something a little bit better offensively. As much as Cordero Patterson helps them, only 21 points against this Jags defense. Speaking of the Bucs, 38-31 against the Indianapolis Colts. The one thing I wanted to mention, so if you looked at like the biggest games of the week, this being one of them, two really good teams from both conferences, Tennessee, New England, Cleveland, Baltimore, Rams, Packers, an insane amount of turnovers. This Bucs Colts game was just a turnover fest with fumbles and muffed punts and interceptions and the whole deal. And look, the Colts were up early, feeling it. Dome was rocking. Defense was making a ton of plays. Strip sack, though. I mean, the Bucs defense came correct as far as getting them back into this. Strip sack by Shaq Barrett. Colts also muffed a punt. Some ugly big plays. Darius Leonard had another forced fumble. He's got that peanut punch down, man.
We need to get somebody to look at that. It feels like those are happening in every game in the NFL. Just defenders getting so good at targeting the ball with those punches and forcing fumbles. And Leonard has had a bunch this season. But I don't know if that's one of those mental things where because you see it and your brain starts to recognize a pattern that isn't necessarily there. Are we seeing more of those, or does it just feel like it? But yeah, Darius Leonard has had multiple ones of those this season, and it's really been helping them.
The MVP hype was all Jonathan Taylor coming in, and the Bucs did everything they could, stack the box to slow him down. Like, he didn't really get going until very late in the game. He was a big part of the comeback to actually, when their Colts were down 31-24, Jonathan Taylor in the running game is what got them back to tie the game at 31. But the Colts treated this a lot like other teams have, which was, look, the Bucs have Vita Vea back. They've got all these dudes up front. They had no running room early on. They wanted to stop the run and put the ball in Carson Wentz's hands. And Carson Wentz played a really good game. I thought he missed a couple throws in there. The strip sack was really tough for him to avoid. He was getting pressure from two different angles, happened in the throwing motion. There was a great interception by Antoine Winfield just going up over Michael Pittman to make the play, which is like, all right, you're going to trust Michael Pittman in pretty much a jump ball situation against the safety, even with the safety having leverage. So a little bit of bad luck, I would say, for Carson Wentz. He made a ton of key plays, including 3rd and 14 run right before the 2-minute warning. Like, the Colts did a lot of right things, which was usually if Carson Wentz plays well and Frank Reich making aggressive decisions, going for a 4th down just before the half instead of taking the field goal and getting it, Colts did a lot of right things. It really came down to they turned the ball over and let the Bucs back into this one.
I was really impressed by their offense. I kind of went into this game thinking, okay, they've been dominating guys on the ground. Jonathan Taylor with the MVP talk, their offensive line crushing dudes. Does that work against a team like Tampa Bay that have arguably the best run defense in the NFL? And when Vita Vea is there, they can do all that without stacking the box. They can do it with 7 guys up front. And, if you take away that run game, all of a sudden you're putting the ball in Carson Wentz's hands, which is what the team has not wanted to do. Like Frank Reich has definitely not wanted to lean on Carson Wentz as being the thing that the entire offense runs through. They had to do it in this game, and Wentz really played quite well. He had a couple of picks, but I was really impressed by how well Wentz played, and to be honest, was the better quarterback of the two, put up 30 points. And the defense just didn't get it done on the other side.
Yeah, Gronk was the key for the Bucs. He was fantastic. I mean, a couple key plays from him creating after the catch, the 3rd and long where he just willed himself to a first down. He was open up the seam a couple times. The Bucs were down to their 3rd string left guard, and you and I talked about this a little bit last night. I thought Brady was a little bit too quick to get to his checkdowns in this particular game to throw the underneath stuff. The underneath stuff was open against this Colts defense for the most part. You saw Fournette underneath, and we'll talk about Fournette in a minute because he was really good as well. I thought Brady was a little bit too quick to come off some of the downfield stuff, and you mentioned, is it just not having Eli Marpet there as their starting left guard? Aaron Stinney's the backup. He lasted just a handful of snaps, and then it's 3rd string left guard from Rice, Leverett. I wonder how much, and he gave up a sack to DeForest Buckner as well. I wonder how much that was a part of Brady being a little bit on the conservative side here.
Yeah, Leverett had a pass blocking grade of 7.8. The Bucs as a unit gave up 9 pressures, and Leverett gave up 5 of them. It felt like Brady was under pressure more than he was in this game, because it was sort of certainly early. It was like Brady just is a little off. Like he's not where he was early in the season. He's missing some throws. He feels a little bit rushed or just not comfortable in the pocket. And I was kind of curious how much pressure he was under over the course of the game. And it actually wasn't that much at all. It was like 25% of his dropbacks.
Because he was getting rid of it quickly again.
Yeah. But you could tell it's not – this happened a little bit last year when Marpet went down as well, only they at least mitigated the – last year when that happened, they reshuffled the whole offensive line. They moved Ryan Jensen from center to guard, so they got worse at 2 different positions. And all of a sudden, like the entire interior – was just hemorrhaging pressure, and Brady was struggling. At least this time they kept Jensen where he was, so your center is fine, and now you've only got to worry about the backup and then the 3rd string left guard. So it was a problem, but again, if 1 out of 5 offensive line spots is a problem, we can deal with that. If 2 or more, or the more you have, it just multiplies and magnifies the problem. So I think it was an issue, and Brady definitely felt like a quarterback that was anticipating problems coming from an offensive line spot. But then later on in the game, he did seem to kind of get himself back on track.
Yeah, and he had a rough turnover-worthy play outside that. He had a dropped interception, and then the actual interception, a little bit of a miscommunication with Scotty Miller. I thought Greg Olsen broke it down pretty well. I think it was Olsen, right, on the broadcast, kind of thrown to a spot where Scotty Miller is supposed to be outside. He goes inside. Miller coming back off of IR in this game, and the Bucs have to, you're obligated. It's in his contract. You got to take 1 or 2 deep shots to Scotty Miller. And so far, 0 for 1 with an interception so far in Scotty Miller's return. But
Miller did get the not a fumble
recovery.
Muff recovery.
Yeah. Does it count as a fumble recovery?
Don't think
even
so.
Though it's not a fumble.
Actually, it might be a fumble recovery, but
it just
it's not
doesn't count as a fumble. It's just a muff. You get those NFL rules. So a week after, Jonathan Taylor all of a sudden became an MVP candidate. It's actually Leonard Fournette putting up a similar stat line with 3 rushing touchdowns and then 1 through the air. And then Fournette, breaks away for it was the game-winning touchdown. They were the Bucs were in field goal range, game-winning drive opportunity for the Bucs. They were running it out, and they ran it out all the way into the end zone for Fournette.
Yeah,
he looked good in this game. Again, just having Fournette catch the ball and turn upfield. He did have a drop in this one, but just having him catch the ball and turn upfield in the pass game and create a little bit on his own in the run game does really change this offense for the better.
I love listening to Bruce Arians' press conferences afterwards, after games generally, because he is so brutally honest. It's
really
just
is
hilarious. So he was lamenting the fact that Lenny actually scored in the play. He was like, yeah, I would have preferred he gone down at the 2-yard line or whatever.
Right.
And obviously people were mad at that because you can't take points off the board when they're there. But like generally it's because of exactly what happened, right? The Colts get the ball back. The guy almost returns it for the touchdown.
With 20 seconds left, they almost gave up a kick return for a touchdown.
Kick return, almost. The guy just gets a hand on him and makes him stumble. He's almost made that guy miss, and if he did, he was housing it. Even that, with the tackle, put them in in range to have a shot at this. But that's exactly why you don't score, right? If Lenny had gone down at the 1 or 2 yard line, they could have drained the clock, kicked, and game over. Right. Instead, you score, you give them the ball back, and all of a sudden, it's still a game. And then the other thing he said was the deep touchdown that the Colts had. Murphy Bunting, I think it was, sort of played it in a weird way, was in trail, looked like he was expecting safety help. And Bruce Arians was like, well, if he was expecting safety help, he shouldn't have been. Like, oh, okay. Yeah. That answers that. Definitely Murphy Bunting's fault then.
Free safety in the middle field cut the crossing route on that one. That was Ashton Doolin beat him for the 62-yard touchdown. Great throw by Carson Wentz, hitting him in stride. But yeah, Bruce Arians said, nobody runs on us. And even though...
Did you see Vita Vea lose a tooth?
Yep.
God, that's got to suck.
Bruce, look at this. We really do have pictures for everything.
Look, the booth is...
Look, stopping the run
today.
Stopping the run is intense.
Yeah,
sometimes you lose a tooth.
His helmet had already been wrenched up or something, and then Glowinski put his hat like right in Vita Vea's face, and just tooth pops right out.
It's rough in the trenches, man.
That would suck. That feels like it would be. That would suck. I don't want it. There's something about teeth and breaking them that would just make me.
You wouldn't want to do that?
Don't want a part of that. Don't want any part of that.
Anyway,
that's why you wear the helmet. You know what I mean?
Great, entertaining game with the Bucs and the Colts. Bucs needed this one to hang with the Green Bay Packers, to be right behind the Arizona Cardinals, battling for that number 1 seed in the NFC. Colts fall to 6-6, and again, AFC wide open. That's only a couple games outside of top seeds, but the Colts are going to have to. Their margin of error is dwindling.
Yeah, this was such an opportunity for the Colts. Like with the Titans losing and the way the fact the Titans have nobody left, if the Colts had managed to steal a win here, they would have had a real shot at like stealing that division back from Tennessee by the end of the season.
Just that Tennessee has the tiebreaker.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. Even with that, they would have had a real shot of overcoming that differential. Essentially, 3 games they need to make up. They would have had a real shot at it. This is just a big blow for that. I think they still have a reasonable shot at the playoffs, but that it just makes things a lot tougher. People, by the way, this charity idea, right? What can we do as a forfeit, as a punishment, as a thing to raise money for charity, just to set some guardrails on you when you're coming up with your ideas. Somebody in the chat box here, for charity, get a tattoo of the NFL team that most donations are for. Which
no, I'm not getting a
team
tattoo.
Logo tattoo will Steve get? Donate to whatever. And so, like, I don't know about you. I'm not going to speak for you. I'm not having anything tattooed on me for charity unless we are raising a staggering amount of money here. Like, nothing. There should be no permanent.
Yeah, this is probably more than the haircut. The hair grows like $50,000 haircut would at least grow back.
You could shave your head, and in a few months' time, you could have the same ridiculous barnet in the top of your head that you have now.
Thank you.
The tattoo thing, that's like a permanent rendition unless you're getting it laser removal, which I don't imagine is cheap. So, permanent disfigurement is not part of. We're not likely to sign up for that. I'm saying.
Not a tattattue guy.
You're not a tattoo guy.
Do you have a tattoo?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
I have no objection
the only
to
two
them.
Left?
I just haven't. I haven't seen anything that I imagine I would still like in 40 years' time and think is awesome.
Like a Bills logo? Because it'd be the Bills. Bills Mafia would be given thousands of dollars, and you'd have we'd both have Bills tattoos.
I mean, that certainly isn't something I want on me, but generally, like, I have no actual moral objection to tattoos. I just haven't seen something that I think, in like 30 years' time, I'm going to look at that and still think it's awesome.
Yeah, I have no moral objection either. I just don't want to get one, and certainly not for the show.
Right. Like, think of an awesome item of clothing you thought was amazing 20 years ago, and now you think would make you look like an idiot. Like that. Imagine that now permanently etched into your body.
Come on, stop pushing us forward here. The whole chat's trying to listen. It started off. let's pick our hair out. Let's dress up like Steve. Like, all right, let's just keep it fun. Okay. We didn't even want to go like the crazy hot pepper route because of stomach concerns, you know?
I did hear one that I thought was quite a good idea, right? So instead of just here's a disgustingly hot pepper that will like cause you serious injury, you have like a Wheel of Fortune pepper thing with various heats. So from like jalapeno to, Ghost, Carolina Reaper, or whatever, and you just spin the thing, and whatever it lands on, that's what you got to eat and carry on doing the podcast with that.
That's not entertaining.
It really is, I think, Depending on what it lands on, that would be pretty funny.
If we got like a Wheel of Fortune sponsorship to this and all that.
Wheel of Fortune sponsorship, you think they're dealing out like advertising deals?
Yeah, if they want to get in on
the problem with that one is we'd have to wait till spring so that Rick could grow them all.
Is that a problem?
It sets a time scale for this thing. I think we could probably hammer out a couple more charity drives before then.
Hot seasoning he brings to restaurants.
I think that's a pretty good one. I think that'd be funny. Because, the chances of you getting
I'm not interested.
The Carolina Reaper are minimal. And yet, if you're something like, if you're very hot but not hospital hot, you have to do the podcast whilst your face is melting. I think that'd be funny. I'd laugh.
New York Giants 13, Philadelphia Eagles 7. The heck?
The Wheel of Misfortune. You see, there you go. Somebody's even naming it for us.
The Wheel of Misfortune. It could be fortunate. Get an easy one.
Maybe.
Speaking of misfortune, how about this Eagles team scored 7 points? They ran the ball
a million times.
Again, 208 yards. But this was like the old JT Barrett game that I talk about. Jalen Hurts with 3 interceptions on 31 attempts, passer rating of 17.5. But he had 77 yards on the ground on 8 carries. But yeah, Philadelphia just could not put the ball into the end zone.
Yeah.
And then when Hurts actually did make a great throw, potential game winner to Jalen Reagor right on his hands. This was just ugly.
Yes.
Giants defense, though, made some plays.
Jalen Reagor made like one play early in the game, and it was like everybody forgot everything that had happened since they drafted him. Or like, oh, he's fixed now. Let's start loading up Jalen Reagor with targets in really high leverage situations. Like, okay, he's made a positive play. That's great. Let's celebrate that. But on 3rd and gotta have it, 4th and gotta have it, do you really want to target Jalen Reagor? Do you? Having seen what he's done from draft day till now, is that the guy you really want to put the game on the line in his hands? Is it? Is it really?
Apparently not.
Because I don't think it is, and yet that's what the Eagles were doing repeatedly in this game. And, okay, yes, Jalen Hurts put the ball in his hands in the end zone for what should have been a touchdown at the end of the game. On the other hand, why was he the guy you were targeting? Versus Devontae Smith, who was waving at Jalen Hurts, like, I'm open, hit me, and instead you throw the ball at Reagor. Like, look, yes, Reagor is most at fault there for dropping the ball in the end zone. On the other hand, I think as the quarterback, you have to have some awareness that that's probably not a smart place to go with the football. You know what I mean? It's not like he was standing there wide the hell open with nobody within 10 yards of him in the back of the end zone. You're like, I don't care if it's Jalen Reagor or like some dude we just pulled out of the stands. That's a better than nothing chance of him catching the ball. Like, how could he screw it up from there? It was still a target that was, going to be vaguely contested. And you have to know that that's Reagor, not Devontae Smith or somebody you actually trust to catch the ball.
We have another, what did we call this? So there's the go ball to Reagor that should have been caught that we're not calling a drop at the moment here.
Jalen Reagor had 7 targets in this game and had 2 catches.
Yeah, man. Well,
Devontae Smith had 4 targets. Why? There's literally no excuse that should ever happen.
Feed Devontae a little bit more. I don't understand how they could dominate up front and just not put the pass game was so inefficient, whether it was Hurts missing throws, putting the ball in harm's way, or the receivers not coming up with it. The pass game was just an absolute detriment. This go ball is kind of broken up by the defender, but Reagor's got to catch that. This was Hurts' best throw of the game. So the Eagles have 4 opportunities with about a minute left. Not like, they're inside the 40. Hurts puts one, pretty much on Reagor's hands, and it's broken up.
And then you go back to the well.
But that was late. I mean, the one that Rager drops at the 1 was kind of late. He had to kind of fight to make the adjustment just to get back to it. It's 4th down, and then he drops it.
Yeah, but again, you got to catch it, and it's him. Why he shouldn't get the ball? You should have never put yourself in a position where he could let you down.
Here's the problem. He was 1 for 5 when trying to catch uncontested catch opportunities.
Yes.
Whereas Devontae Smith, yes, only had a handful of targets, and should be fed a little bit more in this passing attack. And if you are run game plus Devontae Smith, it could be a lot more efficient.
And particularly, again, in like the highest leverage situations. Okay, in a random 2nd down somewhere in the game, sure, let's give Jalen Reagor a chance to make a play. He made one earlier, why not? But like with the game on the line, there's one play, it's do or die. Who do you throw the ball to? It's not Jalen Reagor.
If you look at the grades, the Eagles will have one of the better run blocking performances of the season. And as much as we talk about, points come through the pass game, and that's where efficiency comes through and all that stuff, right? I mean, the pass game has to be so bad for you to score 7, like for this type of rushing attack to not work.
Yeah.
Right? To have over 200 yards, to have an 88 run blocking grade as a team, linemen grading in the 80s, Dallas Goedert grading in the 80s. Those are massive run blocking grades. If against the Giants defensive front that's supposed to be built to stop the run, and the Eagles can only put 7 points on the board. Man, we just hyped them up last week. What's going on?
We
hyped them up. We had a whole show on the Eagles going to the playoffs, man. This new style. But we forgot that the pass game could be this inefficient.
I mean, this was an absolute catastrophe for Philadelphia. They had a real shot of making the postseason, and all you had to do was like beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And they just set fire to it in this game, like absolutely. And it's not like the Giants put up a lot of points and you had to keep pace. Like all you had to do was score twice, and you win this game, and you continue.
And they were in position to win it. The whole narrative changes though if 2 passes are dropped. As ugly as Hurts played in this game, the narrative changes with 2 contested catch opportunities.
2 contested catch opportunities, or even just like don't put the ball like they had one right at the end of the first half where they were driving for a touchdown and Jalen Hurts runs away from pressure and then just throws the ball to the linebacker. Okay, his intended receiver was sort of tossed to the ground, but like that was a bad pass.
Red zone interception. It was all ugly. So the Eagles rushing attack, 0.17. I know that the numbers are tough. I'll give, and somebody asked me to give a little bit more context when we give these numbers. I try to do that. 0.17 EPA, which is very, very good for a rushing attack. 0.17. Very, very, very good. Very efficient. That'd be a good passing attack. That was the Eagles. Expected points added. Best way to just show efficiency when it comes to offense or defense. The passing attack was minus 0.26, which is terrible. So the Eagles' rushing attack was just far, far, far better than their passing attack. And normally when you run the ball that well, it will lead to pretty good offense unless you're that bad offensively, which includes red zone interceptions, red zone drops, and the whole deal. Credit the Giants a little bit. At least from a pass coverage standpoint, they made the plays. They picked off the 3 passes. And they're in the hunt, Sam. They're in the hunt.
They really are. It's ridiculous.
The people were asking, why do you keep saying in the hunt? Because that's what all the graphics say. Who's in the hunt? Every team in the NFL except the Lions, Texans, and Jaguars. Everybody's in the hunt. Giants move to 4-7. Eagles fall to 5-7. So the Eagles still have a bye coming up here. But man, it was a golden opportunity for the Eagles to go to 6-6 and really be in the hunt. And a game and a half behind the Cowboys, but they're not any longer.
Yeah, like the playoff picture is such that everybody is still technically in it, but Philadelphia's chances took a real body blow with this loss.
And the Eagles' defense has been playing better and better. I mean, the Giants couldn't get much going offensively either. The
discussion we had earlier about quarterback environment and Ryan Tannehill, et cetera, another quarterback that's massively relevant to is Daniel Jones.
Huge.
Just, as people, because people, Daniel Jones made the same mistakes that Daniel Jones always makes in this game. On the other hand, it's like, look what's around him and ask where your expectation should be.
We've seen his offensive line play much worse, though. we've seen them play much worse than they did in this game. It's just as the overall body of work is Daniel Jones has never played behind a good offensive line. Neither has Tua.
And has usually been behind a pretty bad offensive line, and most of his receivers have always been hurt.
The thing that's tough, though, is when you see Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert last year both play behind subpar offensive lines and still produce.
Yeah, it's not that you can't. It's that most of the time, most quarterbacks are.
But you want the guy, like when you're going to invest in the guy, you want that guy to elevate no matter what is put out there. And I don't think we've seen that I don't think we've seen Daniel Jones elevate what's around him. I don't know that we've seen Tua elevate what's around him. I think we have.
Say that Tua has. The question is how far.
If you just look at sack rate, yes. If you just say, well, he's not getting sacked
a lot. Sack rate. Like Jalen Waddle looks like a different player when Tua is there than when Jacoby Brissett is there. Tua has demonstrably elevated multiple areas of that offense. The question is how far and where. Again, where is the ceiling? Like this is the thing. A crappy situation. People were declaring Tom Brady toast based off the last year in New England because his receivers were terrible, right? Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, who as soon as he was put in a different environment looked like the same player again, was being written off as done because his receiving group in New England was awful. Even the offensive line was fine, and it was looking worse because of that receiving group. So if it can do that to the greatest quarterback in the NFL, of course it's going to make Daniel Jones look like crap.
Yeah. Tough decisions, right? For whoever. Like a lot of reports that Gettleman's out too, and there will be a new regime there. We'll see if it's a Joe Judge-led regime as well for the Giants. There are some tough decisions to be made there with the Giants. Both of these teams, Eagles and Giants, will have plenty of off-season discussion about both of these teams. I think that's all the 1 o'clocks. Yeah, we were going to get done by 9.
Yeah, well done.
Green Bay 36, Rams 28. Today's PFF NFL Daily. We try to be positive on a Monday morning. We were not.
How did we do?
No, we talked about the Rams. Sky is falling. They fall to 7-4. Third straight loss for the Rams.
Are you sure that I didn't do really well this week? Because every time I look at the graphic, I got one right.
Let's see. I don't know. Somebody will get us your numbers.
Okay.
But the Packers, they moved to 9-3 here, and 9-3. I thought they were 8-3. Is this thing wrong? What's their record, Sam? No, they're out 9-3. They haven't had a bye yet either. So Packers 9-3 and still in the mix, of course, for the number 1 overall seed. Big win for them. Matthew Stafford, another pick 6 in this one to Rasul Douglas. What'd you think of this game? A lot of storylines in this one.
Yeah. So Green Bay and Arizona have been the two teams that have impressed me the most this year in terms of weathering setbacks and weathering things that have caused problems for other teams. Like, there's a lot of teams in the league where you're like, if they're fully healthy, their depth is incredible and they're so difficult to stop and the capacity they have to beat you in all these different ways is amazing. But when that's been chipped away at, all these teams have started to falter. We've seen it from Tampa Bay. We've seen it from Dallas. Obviously, Tennessee right now is being wrecked by injuries, not just challenged, but like completely destroyed. We've seen it from so many teams. The Cardinals have gone 2-1 without their quarterback and number 1 wide receiver. Insanely impressive. And are right now in control of that number 1 seed. And then Green Bay have been playing without the best left tackle in the NFL, without their second left tackle who went down, and without their top cornerback, without their best pass rusher. They lost Aaron Rodgers for a game, and they're another team that's right up there with the number 1 seed. So this was another game where I just been really impressed by Green Bay continuing to get it done despite the sort of consistent setbacks that you think would take out most teams. And no David Bakhtiari all season long. He isn't back yet. They're hoping to get him back at some point and really fix that issue. No Elton Jenkins. He went down. So Josh Nijman was their left tackle, right? And he held up okay. He wasn't terrible. And, okay, they were clearly helping him out, making sure he wasn't a problem. But they had like 3 members of that offensive line that did not grade particularly well in pass protection. And it didn't really matter. Like, Aaron Rodgers did what Aaron Rodgers does. The offense was fine. and they just kept on going.
Excellent performance by Aaron Rodgers because, yeah, he was under pressure. I mean, the pocket was compressing a bunch on him. He made a lot of throws. He only got sacked once didn't even lose a yard. He was kind of stepping up. To me, that was the most impressive thing is the Packers avoided those negative plays. And then Rodgers, when he had those opportunities, dime of a seam route, dime dropping one in to Devontae Adams down the field. They flipped the field with some big throws, and they didn't have those negative plays under pressure. And to me, it just felt like, and I mentioned this on the Daily, you've got Matthew Stafford on one side, and it just felt like this uphill battle. There was a point where I thought, okay, maybe it's different, right? He hits Van Jefferson on the bomb, and the Rams are competing in this shootout with the Packers, which if this had happened in previous years, you wouldn't expect it. If you get into a shootout with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, and you're bringing Jared Goff to the fight here, you just didn't feel like the Rams were going to be able to compete, right?
Didn't they win a 50-something, 40-something game against Kansas City?
There was a defensive touchdown in there.
Oh, sorry. My bad. So Goff only accounted for 40-something of the points?
That was 3 years ago.
Sure. It still happened.
It's
not like Goff hasn't had these games. They won the Minnesota Vikings game as well. It was like a monster shootout. Goff was racking up the points.
Yeah, there was a couple games where Jared Goff did that. I didn't get that feeling the last 2 years that he would be that guy.
Okay.
2018, Jared Goff did a lot of really good stuff. Yeah.
I'm just saying that it's not like Matthew Stafford is the only way that the Rams are capable of being in a shootout. Like Goff has done that.
Yeah, I understand. Stafford's probably better equipped for it, as much as he did not play well in this game, and had more turnover-worthy plays and just missed throws. He missed a bunch of throws in this game. Stafford was not great. Talked about all the reports, but what I'm saying is there was a point in this game where it felt like, okay, it could be different. Maybe the Rams are going to be able to hang here, but the Packers, just kept pulling away, and Stafford was not able to keep up.
No,
and now that brings up massive question marks for the Rams. You got Stafford for this game because your perception was we can't do this with Jared Goff. You have to win road games in the NFC with the teams that you're competing with for the top playoff spots. And whether it's Stafford, Von Miller, Odell Beckham Jr., you're not getting that production out of all these recent signings or guys you traded for.
So there's some sort of mitigating circumstances, right? You lose Robert Woods, who's one of the best receivers in the NFL and a really important part of this offense.
How good is he, though? Did you hear what Troy said?
How good is he?
Troy Aikman said he's top three wide receiver in the NFL.
I mean, that's
Aikman's rankings.
Higher than I would be willing to go, but I think he's a very good wide receiver.
I agree.
And a really important role within this offense that you don't have a clear replacement for. As much as it's like, hey, Odell Beckham is a new acquisition, he can do some of the things. Like, he can't do everything Robert Woods does in terms of that kind of big slot and all these kinds of things. Like, Woods does a lot for that offense, and OBJ, even at his best, does not do some of those things, doesn't have the same skill set. Neither does Van Jefferson. So there's like a clear absence from this offense that you had earlier in the season that is going to be something you need to work around. But like, Stafford now is 3 straight games of mediocre grading. He now has a worse grade than his last 5 consecutive seasons in Detroit. So the player that you're looking at over there with the Lions and are like, this guy is being held back by this joke of a franchise that can realize the full potential of Matthew Stafford. Now we're going to surround him with the Rams playmakers and Sean McVay and his genius system and this good offensive line. We're going to get this much better Matthew Stafford. Well, he's grading worse than the last 5 years with the Lions, right? So that hasn't happened yet. And, okay, the production has been better for those first, 6-7 games, but now that's disappeared as well. So what are we doing here? And if you're blaming injuries, one, he's a guy with a fairly extensive injury history from his time in Detroit. It's not like this is an unexpected development in Matthew Stafford's career. We haven't gone from Iron Man to a dude that's banged up throughout the season. And two, if it was unless they happened after week 7, they're not excuses, because he was cooking for the first 7 weeks and we were apologizing for doubting the greatness of Matthew Stafford and the alchemy that would be created by combining Stafford with Sean McVay. So if it wasn't an excuse for him then, it's not an excuse for him now. The wheels have fallen off this thing. All of a sudden the Rams, who were chasing the number 1 seed in the Super Bowl, are we are not even particularly good right now, And there's a whole bunch of teams in the NFC that look better than us. We need Stafford to pull himself out of this tailspin, or we didn't do anything this year.
Yeah, they need him now. Look, I think the bottom line is you're not trading for Matthew Stafford so that he'll grade better. You are grading for the production. And the overall production this year, because it was so good those first 8-9 weeks, is still among the best in the league. Just pure down for down pass game production is still right near the top, right, for the Rams. The problem is in these when you lose a Robert Woods, it keeps coming back. It's like this Baker Mayfield argument. It's like everyone else we're talking about. When you lose stuff, which everybody has lost, right? Everybody, we talked about the Packers, all of their losses. Everybody that they're picking up practice squad players and everybody that they have lost along the way. And outside of a couple games, Aaron Rodgers generally has produced here. And you need Stafford to step up when Robert Woods isn't the guy. And you do bring in Odell Beckham Jr. They did have the 54-yard touchdown connection there. So, maybe there is something there in the future. But you're asking, there he is. What?
Ben is making the point.
Upstairs?
Ben is making the point that Stafford has done this 4 or 5 times in his career, where you get new coach, new system, new whatever, and you get 8 games of amazing Stafford, and then he regresses back into Matthew Stafford. So Ben was saying, well, why don't you hire 2 offensive coordinators in the year? You hire one to start the season, then you hire a new one midway through to get you through the rest of the year.
Let's get Zach promoted here. Zach Robinson has been named the new offensive coordinator for the Rams for the rest of the year.
And then you might need a third one for the postseason so he can take you through to the Super Bowl. Maybe that's the strategy here.
So demote McVay.
Just rotate. Just one, then the next 3. You have 3 guys that you're capable of calling plays and having the system. And
Call Peyton Manning in
swap
for the
them in and
playoffs
out
or
every
something.
8 games.
Actually, don't do that with Peyton. Wow, I like it. That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good strategy.
So the other thing at play here for the Rams is, obviously the defense gave up 36 points, or gave up a lot of points. The pick 6 was points that's not on the defense.
Yeah.
It feels like they're too easy to scheme around right now if you're the offense, right? So it's like, hey, this is great. Devontae Adams against Jalen Ramsey. We get this battle all the way through the game. And it doesn't happen that much because the Rams don't use Jalen Ramsey in that way. And then the other aspect is when you don't, I don't think there's a team in the NFL that is more prepared to look up, see the advantage they have one-on-one, and just put the ball in the air immediately. When when Aaron Rodgers looks up pre-snap and sees Dante Dion one-on-one with Devontae Adams, whatever the play call, forget it. This is where the ball is going.
Yeah, I'm throwing it to Devontae.
Throwing it in the air now, immediately. And you can't even, Dante Dion has no shot. The dude he's small. He's not particularly, he's overmatched by Adams in every conceivable capacity. So, of course, he's giving up a big play. And so whenever you give the Packers that picture pre-snap, you're giving up a big play. And if you don't give them that picture, you're trying to manufacture Jalen Ramsey on him one-on-one, and Jalen Ramsey was giving up a catch every time he was. Even your best guy, who's arguably the best corner in the NFL right now, is being taken to town by Devontae Adams. He's that good. So the whole strategy of pumping all your resources into 2 players effectively, if those guys lose, you're done.
And Von Miller, who's just been, he had a bunch of pressures yesterday, few dominant wins, so the pass rush grade won't be great. 2 games now with Von Miller where the defense has not looked good, so he hasn't necessarily upgraded them at all right now. Meanwhile, the Broncos look pretty good. A lot of question marks coming out of the Rams. We thought it's a fascinating strategy watching them surrender high draft picks for players that could help them right now, and now those players aren't helping them.
They're not.
You're going to tell me they draft in volume, but they're still lighting high draft picks on fire. Well, they're trading them for players.
I'm not even going to tell you that. They're, as much as we've sort of asked, is the sky falling on the NFL Daily? There are people out there that are like, oh, their window is closed and they're done for the next 2 or 3 years. The Rams are going to be bad.
That's the wrong narrative too. Yeah,
this is what I'm saying. It's not that bad. Yes, things are not going well right now. They are kind of in a tailspin. This season is in trouble and in jeopardy, and things need to change for them to be a Super Bowl contender. Even if they don't, even if they miss the playoffs this year, I don't think next year would be up in smoke. I think the pieces are still there for them to be good and competitive again.
Sure.
It's just that right now it's not.
Yeah, they're
working.
not all in for 2021 only.
Yeah,
where
right now it isn't working.
The Von Miller move was all in, though.
Sure.
You're giving up your 2 day 2 picks there for Von Miller. That is, you're not getting those back. Maybe the comp pick, but anyway, huge win for the Packers. They moved to 9-3, and we'll see what happens with the Cardinals, right? I mean, I'm not expecting the Cardinals to go 15-2. I think they'll lose at some point here. Packers have the tiebreaker. So the Packers look like they might have the road to the number 1 seed here. They're right in the mix for that number 1. We mentioned the Broncos. They win 28-13 against the Los Angeles Chargers. Patrick Surtain with a pick 6 to kind of seal the deal here to get up to 28-7. Teddy Bridgewater got hurt at one point for the Broncos, comes back in the second half, and I think that was a huge key because Teddy played a solid game. Drew Lock comes in, fumble for a first down, by the way, so it was okay. Also throws an interception to the player. Great diving attempt. Broncos' rushing attack was pretty good again. Trying to figure out what happened to the Chargers. But both teams now 6-5, much like the Raiders in the AFC West. All 3 teams 6-5 now.
Yeah. I don't understand what prompts Denver to show up every couple of weeks and beat good teams. The Broncos actually stomped on Dallas a couple of weeks ago.
Is that just another preseason prior though? We said they got a good roster.
Yeah,
they're good. They're good in the second. They're good on the perimeter.
But
right?
usually those teams that are sort of a good roster, but never a Super Bowl contending roster because of the kind of quarterback situation. Usually the way that presents itself is they beat bad teams, they lose to good teams. Denver's win-loss is like a random. That's not how it works.
True.
They're beating good teams randomly, they're losing to bad teams randomly. It just feels like luck on any given week. What kind of Broncos team is going to show up?
So turns out, the Broncos end up, they're just similar to the Browns, right? I mean, the Browns are a good roster with inconsistent quarterback play. The Broncos are getting better quarterback play from Teddy Bridgewater, and it's just a good all-around roster.
The other thing, can you imagine what would happen in this game if Drew Lock hadn't come in at any point?
Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater gets hurt, didn't even know what happened. It was a leg injury of some description, but I wasn't quite sure how that happened given the hit that he took. Drew Lock comes in, has 8 dropbacks, 2 turnover-worthy plays, immediately fumbles the ball at random. Denver also was dealing with a ton of injuries in the offensive line. They are pretty banged up. And again, it's how did they just wreck the Chargers?
Yeah, I was trying to figure this out coming out of this game. Herbert, the Chargers offense should be better, right?
Yes.
And that's what I'm really trying to sort out here. Herbert's not playing poorly overall. You have Keenan Allen, you have Mike Williams. You see all those flashes. One of Herbert's best throws was a back shoulder to Mike Williams where there was an offensive pass interference. In this particular game, it just felt like, okay, third downs, the Chargers converted 7-14, but there's another fourth down that they didn't get. It was just the Broncos just made enough key stops over and over and over again here.
And Herbert did have a bunch of bad plays in this game, more than he's
Yeah,
had.
this wasn't his best game. I'm talking the Chargers as a whole trying to figure it out. Herbert wasn't as clean in this game as he's been in other ones.
Yeah, not at all. He had a few bad plays in this game. He also got unlucky. The second pick from Surtain hit Austin Eckler in the hands and then bounced up and ended up being taken back.
That was one of those the throws off target. It's not a great throw, but it certainly shouldn't be an interception. It definitely shouldn't be a pick 6.
It's you would expect the guy to catch that, not for it to be going back in the other direction.
Yeah, the first interception by Herbert, horrible, right?
Second one was pretty bad too. Or second turnover-worthy
Second
play.
turnover, yeah. So he ends up with 3 total turnover-worthy plays. I'm saying the first actual interception was bad. And I'm saying those are the plays that were the difference in this one.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the gist of it.
Pretty much. So the thing with the Chargers offense and the fact that it's been this kind of hyper-conservative, problematic type of system where you're why is it not maximizing what Justin Herbert can do, is if all of a sudden a couple of turnovers show up, and Justin Herbert does actually throw the ball straight to a defensive back a couple of times, you're not making enough plays to offset that. So all of a sudden, instead of wherever you have been normally and putting up enough points and, ending up disappointed with it, but not able to criticize the results too much, all of a sudden that changes and you put up 13 points and the whole thing is just not good enough. Those are the kinds of fine margins you're dealing with if you're going to play that style of offense. Yeah,
Herbert had only 7 turnover-worthy plays coming into the game, has 3 in this one. So even, like you said, like the bad luck on the actual pick 6, offset by the fact that he put the ball in harm's way 3 total times, had the 2 interceptions. Chargers got to go back to the drawing board, man. Even defensively, right? You still have a team that is not great up front. They're trying to play with light boxes, not great up front. Javonte Williams, a couple freak plays in there, especially one as a receiver, just making a play up the sideline. Him and Melvin Gordon, a good 1-2 punch. I mean, I think that's also part of the Broncos here, as much as we poo-poo running games. There are games where like a 1-2 punch of Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, they force 7 missed tackles in the run game. Like those in individual games throughout the season, there is value there. And that is, the Broncos needed that too. Because again, Teddy made a couple plays, had a nice scramble for a touchdown and the whole thing. But sometimes you need the run game as well. And the Broncos have that option offensively.
Yeah, and a lot of that is because the Chargers defense is bad.
I get it.
The Chargers defense is actually being constructed in a similar way to the Rams, which makes sense given Brandon Staley comes over, but it's without the design. Like the Rams team building strategy, as we've been talking about, is like it's centering things around this top heavy approach where we get a couple of amazing players and we just patch it together outside of those guys.
Can we say the guy's name yet? Because he was
no. So the Chargers have done a very similar thing with Joey Bosa, one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL, and the player number 33, who shall remain nameless lest we jinx him.
Great player, but safety.
Made a bunch of incredible plays, graded above 90. So they have those 2 guys and basically nothing else. Like everybody else is not grading particularly well and did not grade particularly well in this game. But I don't think it's the same. Like they haven't gone in deliberately trying to do that. It's just that's the way it's manifesting right now.
That's what Staley. I almost said Brandon Stokely. That's what Brandon Staley inherited.
Right. But it comes with all the same drawbacks, right? Which is sometimes that just isn't enough. And if the rest of those guys are not capable of holding up in a game, you just get overmatched and you give up a ton of points.
Broncos also sacked Justin Herbert 3 times, got to him a little bit. So Broncos defense, they're not missing Von Miller either for the most part here. So it's just interesting, right? I mean, it's not, Von Miller was playing good football with the Broncos, but I don't know if this overrates the value of one player on the defensive side of the ball. But it is interesting that the Broncos continue to roll. And Vic Fangio, there was a sky is falling talk in Denver early in the season, but he's got them playing hard, man.
Yeah. So. Yeah, the Broncos, I mean, it seems to be random, but they played well, and this was a big game for them.
Oh, there's only one game left.
Well, there you go.
Check my work. Make sure I didn't miss anything.
Check your work, God.
San Francisco 34, Minnesota 26. The Niners also move to 6-5, and it was 2 hot teams. We both picked Minnesota here. See, here's where we lose. This is where we lost. 2 hot teams. This is what you get for taking.
Why did I pick the?
I talked you into taking the Vikings.
You did, you asshole. I remember that.
Yeah. Yep, I did.
I knew it. You see, you were
the second time since 2012 that you picked the Vikings, and look what happens. Look what happens.
Son of a...
I'm just saying they'd been burning you in recent weeks, and they did it again. They did it again. 34-26. Is Deebo Samuel the MVP? There's nobody, because the idiot media has to pick an MVP every single week, and the MVP is not who's the best player, the most valuable player through the last X number of weeks. Who did the best yesterday? And there's no Jonathan Taylor. Like there's probably somebody saying it's Leonard Fournette today because they're that crazy. Maybe it's Deebo Samuel. Maybe Deebo Samuel's the most valuable player in the NFL, even with only 1 catch for 12 yards. Just throw him into the backfield. And 2 touchdowns, a 49-yarder. He did had a groin injury at the end. They're going to be checking on. But, man, Deebo moving to the backfield, just love it with this offense. This offense is cooking, though, in San Francisco with all of their players healthy.
Yeah. this, in fact, was exactly the way I said this game was going to go, which is the Vikings just cannot stop this 49ers offense.
You knew Kirk Cousins would have the worst interception of the season and that he would miss a wide-open two-point conversion and just be as inaccurate as he's been all year. You knew all that was going to happen. That was the difference.
The point was the Minnesota Vikings defense was not capable of stopping the San Francisco offense. Elijah Mitchell had a ton of yards. Deebo Samuel had a ton of yards. Like, they could not prevent the 49ers from doing what the 49ers do. And at that point, you are then putting the ball in Kirk Cousins' hands and saying you need to keep pace in a shootout. And if you screw up at any point, we're done. And that's what happened. And look, the Kirk Cousins thing. Kirk Cousins is still going to have like a top 5 grade in terms of PFF rating after this game. He made some nice plays. He was also off in a bunch, but whatever. This was not a good Kirk Cousins game. The thing is, though, he's been grading as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this season, has been grading really well for quite an extended period of time. And yet you always wonder, like, why do we not buy into this? Like, why do we not trust it? How come we can't just give him the credit for being a really, really good quarterback? You get the feeling that there's something missing and there's something just not quite right that other quarterbacks have, or, and remember, this is a guy with a weird history of like randomly throwing the ball backwards out of bounds or just backwards, period, of kneeling when he was supposed to spike as if he pressed the wrong button in his brain. Like,
most amazing play in NFL history for me.
Sure. And then in this game, he lined up under guard instead of center.
You don't know the play call. You have no idea. You're not in the huddle. You don't know.
And this was in the shadow of the 49ers goal line. This was like, a fairly important position. And the funniest part of the play was like multiple players trying to correct him. Alexander Madison like runs up and tries to like scooch him to the left like he's a child. The right tackle, Brian O'Neill, was like, dude, 1 over. You're in the wrong spot. And then eventually Cousins has to like take a timeout, and it didn't cost him. But like, my point being, Cousins now has this like fairly extensive library of weird ass brain farts that other quarterbacks just don't have. And at some point you're like, do I really trust you to do the right thing and not like implode when a key moment in the game materializes? And the answer is no, because of these things.
That was a fun play.
And look, it's not like complete. It's not A, unprecedented, or B, like there are sort of reasons.
There he is.
Yeah, look at him under right guard.
See, what if it's a direct snap? See, now I would put this into the playbook.
Yeah.
If
well, now Cousins is your quarterback. He can actually it's a plausible thing.
Yeah, direct snap to Madison now.
But so the play was screwed up from the outset. The receivers were in the wrong place. He was trying to get everybody lined up, and then when he like rushed back under center, he miscounted and was under the wrong place. It does happen, but it happens to Kirk Cousins more than it happens to other people, is all I'm saying.
The Neil spike thing was very
I genuinely don't understand how that can happen to a person.
Sometimes you do press the wrong button
in your brain.
There are so many old NFL like blooper reels though. You get a guy guard and they're like, oh no, it's over here.
But you see the difference between Cousins now has like a book full of these things.
No, I get it.
Whereas Tom Brady has played for like 25 years and has one play in his lifetime where he forgot the number of he forgot what down it was.
Yeah, and he's old. I mean,
right.
He was 43 when he did it.
He's played an entire geriatric career and he's done that once. Kirk Cousins has played for a fraction of the time and has like 6 of them.
Yeah, I mean, the bigger concern, obviously, in this one was he throws, a simple stick route, which the Vikings run all the time. Cousins just stares it down and just forces it. One of the worst interceptions we've seen from him in a while. They did have the 2-point conversion. I mean, this wasn't why they lost, but he just missed more throws than he had all year. And we've said it on the show here too, right? Like, why not play this game? If you're the Vikings, right? So going back to your point, why not play this type of game? Dalvin had 10 carries, and he had 30 of his 39 yards on 1 carry, right? He had 1 breakaway. Alexander Madison couldn't get much going either. Why not play this game where you put the ball in Kirk Cousins' hands and say, you, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, go play football?
I mean, this was if you are a Kirk Cousins doubter, or if you're the Minnesota Vikings, and this idea, why don't they trust him to do this? He's got a fairly long reel of play now that suggests this is the best way of them playing and that he can actually do more than you think he's capable of. It's like the let Russ cook narrative, right? Every now and again there was a game where they loaded up Russ and he doesn't play well. And it's like, you see, this is why they want to run the ball 58 times and give him 19 targets. You know what I mean?
Right.
This was the Cousins version of that, where it's like, if you are the Vikings and you're like, we know that if we put the game in Kirk Cousins' hands and say, go out there, carry this entire offense, it's going to be you and you alone, get this done, this is going to happen. You're going to get a bad Cousins game and we don't win. And I think that's true. I think it is more likely that Cousins has these games than other quarterbacks that are grading in a similar area to Cousins. On the other hand, it's probably still your best way of winning. Like, even with the fear that this game can show up, you're better off. It's still your best. It's still the best thing you have available to you. But
that's the point. I mean, that's the whole point of when we encourage more passing and less running. It's like, would you love to have a game that looks like the Bengals, where Joe Burrow throws the ball 24 times and the rush game, the run game is excellent, and you have pick sixes, and yes, you would love to have that. But even an uncomfortable pass-heavy attack, and uncomfortable meaning you're missing more throws than you would like, you throw the ball in harm's way a couple times. Like, even an uncomfortable passing attack is probably more efficient than most of your run-heavy attacks week to week. That's the thing, right? And then in a game like this, where you do have to keep pace with the 49ers offense, it is probably your best bet. But it's Cousins the last 2 weeks, even though they beat the Packers, he had a couple turnover-worthy plays there. Hasn't been as good these last couple weeks here.
There's a tweet from Pro Football Talk. Kirk Cousins on lining up behind the guard, quote unquote, just got onto the wrong guy.
Yeah. That's fair.
Just telling it like it is. It just happens. Just got it on the wrong dude. It happens, The other thing that was, I might be reading too much into this, but Justin Jefferson appeared to be getting very frustrated as this game wore on with some of the plays, some of the misses that Kirk Cousins had. Like the 2-point conversion, Jefferson shook his guy in the end zone and the ball lands like not even at his feet, like a yard short of his feet. And Jefferson, does the whole jump, throws his arms around. It's like, do you understand how hard it is to shake a dude in the end zone for to get open like this, and you put the ball 4 yards in front of me? Like, come on, help me out a little bit here. I don't need that much. Just give me a catchable ball.
I thought things might be different. Early in the game, Zimmer goes for it on 4th and 2.
Did it a couple of times in this game.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I thought that one in particular. There's going for it on 4th and 1 feels so different than 4th and 2. 4th and goal from the 2. Yeah. Right? I mean, it is a difference, obviously, but that felt like the one where, okay, we're just going to put points on the board and all this stuff. They had just thrown an incompletion on 3rd and 2, so they had been stuffed. Especially that, right? You throw the ball on 3rd and 2 and it's incomplete, and then you come back and we're going to throw the ball again, and they did convert it to Adam Thielen, who just scores touchdowns, and
great catch.
Yeah, it was fantastic. But I mean, so I thought that was good, right? That was like saying, all right, the strength of my team right now is the quarterback's accurate, and I got 2 really, really good receivers, one of the best tandems in the NFL, if not the best. So let's do it. And I thought that was great. I thought those were the types of decisions for Zimmer and for the Vikings that would maybe pay off. But again, they just could not make stops. The turnover hurt a ton because it put the Niners at the 5. And the Niners were coming off 2 really long scoring drives where the Vikings couldn't stop them. Of course, the 5-yard drive was easy. So that ended up being the difference in the game, essentially, was 2 really long drives by the Niners, the 5-yard drive after the interception by Cousins. And 1 week after, you say, well, Cousins was a big catalyst, even though he had a couple rough plays, big catalyst for the win over the division rival Green Bay Packers. You need to come back this week now. You need to come back this week against another 5-5 team if you're going to make this playoff push on the road against the 49ers. And it's another one, just like the Stafford narrative. It's like, you pay all this money, you need your quarterback to come through here, and he did it.
Yeah, you can't really have a bad game here. And the other thing is, with the Justin Jefferson dynamic, you have this great receiving duo in Jefferson and Thielen. That this offense has the capacity to piss receivers off because they're not going to get the ball as much as other receivers in different systems. And that's why Stephon Diggs, good as he was in this offense, eventually wanted the hell out of there. It's like, yeah, I'm getting a reasonable amount of passes and I'm doing fine and I'm a big part of this offense, but I could go over somewhere else and get 50 more passes thrown in my direction. And I think not only do I think that's good for me, but I think it actually helps the team better. And it's hard to argue, given how it worked out for him. Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen might be perfectly happy as long as everything's going well. And the passes that come in their direction are on target. And okay, you're going to see 40, 50 fewer targets than the top guys in the NFL, but at least the ones that do come in your direction are catchable and accurate and being thrown by a guy, grading as well as anybody. As soon as that guy starts to falter, and it's like, okay, now you're getting 50 fewer targets than these other guys, and they're no more accurate. And half of them aren't going to be catchable. All of a sudden, that's going to be really frustrating. It's one thing to ask a receiver to accept a lower volume of passes sent in his direction. It's another thing to ask him to accept that with no trade-off. You're not only are you getting less work, but they're also no better. So you're just in a crappier situation. So, it's early. Jefferson's only been there, a brief period, but there's precedent for this upsetting receivers already.
I still think more Justin Jefferson is the right strategy.
Yeah.
He is legit, man. I think he's up there with Devontae Adams. I really do. As far as I want 10 to 15 targets for him every game, good stuff's going to happen. He'll get open. He'll win at the catch point. He'll do a lot of good stuff. Tough one for the Vikings, though. So they fall to 5-6, still in second place in the NFC North.
Still, I think, have the best odds of any of the teams chasing that 7 seed to get there. This game mattered in terms of sort of percentage chances and who needed it. This mattered more for the 49ers than it did for the Vikings. But again, that's a pretty key loss for Minnesota.
So the Niners win their third straight. They're now a game behind the Rams in the NFC West. A game behind the Rams. Rams are 7-4. Niners are 6-5. They'll play again. And Niners now won 3 straight, while the Rams have lost 3 straight. So those 2 seasons have really turned in that division. Seattle's going to play tonight against Washington football team. We'll see if Russ looks like vintage Russ or if he still look at that too, graphic. We'll see if Russ still has mallet finger lingering here on Monday. He had the extra day this week too.
Lingering mallet.
Yeah, and Washington's
still not out of it. My Super Bowl pick, it's still alive.
They're still
just about.
Yeah, they're still in the hunt.
They're probably out of it if they lose tonight, right?
Probably. Yeah, this is huge. This is where we need Super Bowl Heineke here. Is that every game? I'm looking through.
Believe so.
All right, great. Thanksgiving's over, so we'll be back on Wednesday again this week. So no 2 podcast week. Don't worry. We'll be back for 3 podcasts. And also don't worry, because it's Cyber Monday, Cyber 40 is the promo code. 40% off any PFF subscription. You don't even have to tell them that we sent you. Just go get it right now. A great time to get your PFF subscription or give a Christmas gift to a loved one. It's all over at PFF.com. We get the Edge. We get the Elite package. You can see it on the screen here at YouTube. If you're listening, go check it out, PFF.com. It is one of the best deals, if not the best, that we will put out every single year. Cyber 40 is your promo code. 40% off any subscription. So go do that right now. If you're in the YouTube chat, appreciate the thumbs up. Get this thing going viral. Tell all your friends. The PFF NFL podcast, the #1 NFL podcast in the land.
Nice.
That's what I think.
Okay.
Is that fair?
You're just declaring that?
Yeah. Award-winning. You just say award-winning, we're #1. You just say that stuff.
It's like, music. There's no bad music. There's just, it's subjective, right? What you like, you like.
Yeah.
So I guess you can declare it.
That's how I feel about NFL podcasts.
Yeah.
There are some other good ones out there. There are some other tastes. But we're the best. I think we're the best.
All right.
Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll see you guys on Wednesday.